We are go for liftoff in T-minus 30.
It's the Weiliotis podcast.
I like it.
All right, welcome back, everyone, to another episode of the Weiliotis podcast. It's great to have you back. Of course, we've been a little bit of a hiatus, but, it's good to be back. Before we jump into movie news, recent watches, and, of course, the main movies of today, first want to bring on my very special co-host, the one and only Mikey Wheel. How you doing, my friend?
Hi, special co-host. I like that.
You're
That's
special.
a warm and welcome hello for the holiday season. So thank you.
Yeah.
I feel like we should change our podcast name to Always on Hiatus, which sounds like a great punk rock band name too.
Yeah. Oh man, that'd be a great name.
That would be good. But yeah, no, it's taking breaks. We're both busy with life, but we're back here again. Our last episode, we're still excited about getting that one out there. We interviewed Mike P. Nelson about his latest movie, Wrong Turn. We talked about his other movie, The Domestics. You can find both of those on Redbox Rental Digital right now. And then I checked the other day, Wrong Turn is on Showtime as well. So I do want to watch that because I believe that's the unedited version that Mike talked about.
Yeah, it's on Showtime, right?
Showtime, yeah, I
Which
looked it up.
he mentioned, which was crazy. He mentioned in the in that episode that I think he was like unaware that was even on Showtime in the first place. So
yeah, it was the NC-17 version where the head smashing scene is a lot more gruesome and a lot longer. And also, but yeah, I've been following him on Instagram, which is cool because he has a couple companies that have sent him VHSs of the movies he's made. So they make his movies, like they format them onto a VHS. You can watch them on VHS, and then they make the VHS tape cover for the box look like a 80s movie. So that was super cool.
Yeah, such a cool thing. And yeah, what an episode too. It was awesome having him on.
Awesome.
Very insightful. He was super kind to come on and share his production history and share all of his inspirations with us. So
I can't wait to see what he makes next to, if he does do more Wrong Turn or Domestics or anything in those universes or just anything else. I'll just always be a fan. And we have a couple episodes coming up too that we're excited about. We're working on booking some people, a couple different horror filmmakers, which will be fun. Some B horror filmmakers. We're gonna have some of our friends on. Gonna get on a 90s podcast, who's another friend of ours. They talk about a lot of 90s movies. I think our next one, we're going to have one of the guys from Discussion Combustion on. They're a very funny podcast out of Colorado. I did their podcast twice. I was the most viewed YouTube video of theirs. I had like 35,000 plays in my video, which is more than any of my YouTubes have ever gotten. And then I was beat out by when they had one of the guys from Tiger King on.
Oh yeah, of course.
Which just makes sense. And so they just hit 1 million plays on YouTube. Check them out. They always have a lot of different people of all different backgrounds on. They've had chefs from competition shows. They had the Tiger King guy on. They have local people in Denver on. So we're getting Kevin on soon, and we'll probably get Arthur on for one of his movies as well. But I know Kevin wants to talk about Home Alone. There's also a new Home Alone out,
there is, new Home Alone, which is crazy that
looks all right.
They still made. You watched it?
I haven't. No, it's got a good cast. Rob Delaney, Ellie Kemper. It's got an interesting cast. I'm more like
wait, is Ellie Kemper? Is she the mom, or is she one of the actual robbers?
I think she's the mom. I don't know. I'm not too sure. I've seen like some stills that her and Rob Delaney put up. And then let me see, what was this is why I love Google. I typed in Home Alone horror movie. Of course, it's going to be the trailer where they make it seem like a horror movie. But no, there was a movie that came out a few years ago called Better Watch Out. Came out in 2016. Here's the premise. Ashley travels to the suburban home of the Learners to babysit their 12-year-old son Luke during the holidays. She must soon defend herself and the young boy when unwelcome intruders announce their arrival. Super graphic, super violent, super intense movie. Oh, it's got the guy from Stranger Things in it. I don't even know how to pronounce his name. Dacre Montgomery.
Oh,
He's a,
yeah. He was in season 3, right?
he's the redhead's brother. Yeah, the kind of bad guy. Yeah, and then
he's cool.
it also has Ed Oxenbould from it, who is in The Visit. That was like M. Night Shyamalan's return in 2015.
Wait, Ed Oxenbould, is he also in that movie with trying to remember, Jake Gyllenhaal?
Which one are you thinking?
I forget what it's called. Wildlife, maybe?
Yeah. I haven't seen it, but I'm looking at his page
Wildlife
right
is
now,
cool.
and that is on there.
I remember seeing that. I saw that back in at the Cannes Film Festival. That's a cool movie. He's great in it. I don't think I've seen anything else from him.
Directed by Paul Dano. I'm already in just off of that. I'll bookmark that for later.
Yeah, definitely worth seeing.
Yeah, I think there's like 4. Home Alone 1 and 2 are of course worth it. This movie,
I will say too. I haven't seen it in quite a while, but Home Alone 3, I still have a soft spot for it. Because I feel like it's the only after 3, I think I've seen 4, and
that's all there is, right? Just 4.
Well, there's 4, and then there's the newest one, but I think there might even be another one thrown into the mix. But all I remember is like the 4th one was just really cheaply made. Felt like it was kind of a made for TV at best. But the 3rd one still still had some really cool kind of gags, and I know young Scarlett Johansson's in it. It was like 1997. She was like a teenager in that movie.
I do remember it. It's got a good cast. It's got a good cast. The main kid's good. Yeah. So there was Home Alone 1 and 2 in 1992. Home Alone 3 in 1997. It took a couple years off again. Home Alone 4 in 2002. 2012 they had a little girl, Home Alone.
Yeah.
Home Alone for the Holidays, or the Holiday Heist. Ed Asner's in it. Malcolm McDowell. And then the new one. So who is in the 3rd one? Home Alone 3. We have Scarlett Johansson, Alexander Krupa. I think I've heard of him.
I think the main kid's you remember that movie Max Keebler's Big Move or whatever?
Yeah, I think he was a big child star, right?
Yeah, at least like late 90s, early 2000s, I think with that movie. But
yep.
I just remember watching that one a lot. And I don't know, like I said, just as far as the gags go and the general setup, it felt more in line with the first 2. And then after that, they all just kind of felt like really cheaply made. And I think also it's funny because a lot of the gags in the first one, I feel like you can't really do in a kid's movie today. Like some of them are, even Daniel Stern like stepping on the nail or whatever, like when he's going up the stairs, like, I don't know, there's a certain gags in it that I feel like wouldn't fly today necessarily.
It's violent. And you know what's cool about the original Home Alone? I just feel like we're just going to cover everything for our next episode.
Yeah.
The original Home Alone, there are people posting things that they've realized they never knew. Some people are posting that they didn't know that Joe Pesci was the cop in the beginning, which most people picked up on. Joe Pesci shows up as the cop. He's, preparing to raid the houses and all of that. But something I don't think I remember was when one of them spills the orange soda when they're eating pizza. The mom or whoever it is cleans up the orange soda with a paper towel, and she wipes Kevin's ticket into the trash can. Did you know that? I don't think I ever knew that.
In the first one?
In the first one, there's like a still online you can see where as she's wiping it for like half a second, you just see like Kevin McAllister plane ticket, and that gets thrown in the trash.
That's a cool feature. I don't think you never noticed that, honestly.
And then also, I guess so that they didn't have his ticket, so that's one reason they didn't remember him getting on the plane or not. And then the second kind of background of it is that, what was it? It was something about when they were getting on the plane, there was another kid lost at the airport that was in their group. So when they were doing the head count, they counted enough people, but didn't realize the other kid was not Kevin. So it's not completely on the parents altogether. I mean, Kevin probably should have been taken away.
Right, yeah.
The services, but yeah.
Child services, yeah.
It's an interesting movie.
No, for sure. It's gonna be fun to talk about. And with that said, do you have anything going on movie news wise that interests you? Or I got a couple stories.
I was gonna say, as always, I have a lot more what I've been watching. I'll try to keep that short when we get to it. I think you and we briefly discussed, we have a lot of movie news we want to talk about together. So I'll let you kick it off, and then I'll finish off with whatever we didn't talk about after.
Sure. I'll start with one that, because again, it has been about a little over a month month and a half since we last did this. So I'll talk about some stuff that was kind of released in the past few weeks. But I know that it was officially announced that Jonah Hill will be starring in the new Martin Scorsese movie about Jerry Garcia, or I guess more specifically about the Grateful Dead band, which is pretty cool because, Jonah Hill obviously has worked with Scorsese before in The Wolf of Wall Street as a supporting actor, and now to have him have his own movie with him, I think is pretty crazy. And Jonah's just come a long way, and I'm very interested. And I think also this, if I'm not mistaken, this is the first kind of like bio about like a musician or a band that Scorsese's done. I know Scorsese has made a couple documentaries. I think he's made a Beatles one. He's made This Last Waltz, I believe. So he's made a couple documentaries, but not an actual bio about a specific band or musician. So that should be pretty unique. And also it's from Grateful Dead, late 60s, kind of like counterculture, that feels right up Scorsese's lane. I mean, he's literally like, that's like all the music he ever uses for his movies, or like within that kind of like realm, like late 60s, early 70s. So I feel like this will be just like a perfect project for him, hopefully.
It's a movie where if you told me there was a Jerry Garcia biopic coming out, I'd say I could not give any less of a shit about that. I'm not a Grateful Dead fan or any of that.
I don't really know much of their music, honestly.
I like them now because they have John Mayer in their band.
Oh, that's funny. It's more just because I don't know. I just never got around to it. But I've heard a couple of their songs, but I don't know their music that well.
I feel like Grateful Dead, I've never listened to much of them. I feel like their fan base is like the I've heard a lot of Dave Matthews, and I like Dave Matthews, but I feel like the fan base of the Grateful Dead is similar to like Jack Johnson and Guster and all of that, where just like the people who like those bands, and you're just like, nope. I would not want to go to concert and be around all of this. Like, that is not the demographic I want to be with.
Right. They seem very diehard.
If Scorsese's going his route with this too, it'll be a 4-hour long movie, and about 2.5 hours of those movies will be way too long. Like, just not needed. I'm excited. I'll see it. I think Jonah Hill could definitely get into character for that pretty easily. So that'll be good. I'm excited. And then Scorsese's working on his other movie where Jesse Plemons just became the lead of it. He's making that movie out in the Midwest.
I think, is that Killers of the Flower Moon? I did mention that like a while back.
We talked about that. Wasn't Leo supposed to be it, and then Jesse Plemons stepped into the lead role or something?
I think so. Yeah. I mean, I think you might be right about that. But yeah, that has a really, really awesome cast because so obviously Leo's in it. Robert De Niro, Jesse Plemons, also couple months ago, month and a half ago, I think, what's his name was announced as well. Brendan Fraser as well.
Really? Hell yeah.
Which is awesome. Yeah, because obviously he is in like the beginning of what people call the I don't know if people are calling, it's like his renaissance essentially. Like, and a lot of actors like McConaughey has had his in the past, and people are saying that Brendan is on course to have his own because obviously he's going to be in the new Scorsese. He's also going to be in the new I think he's going to be in the new Darren Aronofsky movie as well.
I'm sorry, I saw a list the other day that was, I don't even remember what the list was. It was like top 10. Oh, it was some very famous director talking about like the top 20 movies that he thinks everybody needs to see, and he put Mother on the list. And I was just like, no, I don't take this seriously anymore. Like that. Have you seen that movie?
The Mother, yeah.
That was I think the worst movie I've ever seen. Like worse than Steven Spielberg's AI.
Oh, it's not the worst movie. It's great, dude. It's like, yeah. I mean, I'll say the worst thing about it is probably that it's so like on the nose with its like allegories and every character being related to like a biblical figure. Like that's all very much like look on the nose, but it's a great like
too obvious on the nose. You mean right?
Too just obvious, yeah.
Yeah, it's like it holds your hand way too much throughout the whole movie. Yeah.
But with that said, I like it because it's fucking crazy. Like it's almost like its own art exhibition piece. You're just every minute that goes by, you're like, what's happening? Like, why is this happening? And I don't know. Aronofsky, obviously, he knows what he's doing. He knows how to frame a shot. He knows how to create like really crazy energy in his movies. So like, I remember the first time I saw it, I literally had no idea what was happening, and I didn't know what it was about. I purposely didn't read into it or watch the trailer.
Yeah.
But I thought it was it was just crazy and a lot of fun to watch.
I saw it in theaters and was just like, I walked out like, why? Why would I ever pay for that? What did I just watch? That was too artsy fartsy for me. Way too like trying too hard to have nothing there. And I mean, Darren Aronofsky and Danny Boyle, Train Spotting and Requiem for a Dream, and then I think Noah and Slumdog or something. I forgot what it was the exact years, but like they're always up against each other at Oscar season.
I can't remember because because Noah. Well, I know no, Noah was 2014. Slumdog was like 2008, I think.
Yeah. What would Noah have been alongside?
I know Danny Boyle came out with something in Trance. Well, Trance came out 2013, 2014. So
Which
that
one
would
was
have
that?
Trance. That's with I think James McAvoy.
Yeah,
Was
okay.
it? Yeah.
But I love the two of them. Just that one movie to me, I was like, him and Jennifer Lawrence are dating. They made a movie together. I can't wait to see this. And then I was just like, this is one of those, like, you do one for them and then you do one solely for you and nobody else in the world. What I liked about it was what I like about Aronofsky too. Just talking about how he does, I guess, other religious movies like Noah, is how he made Noah. He was in like third grade or something, and I just remember reading about this, and he like learned the story of Noah and was like, I want to make a movie about this one day, and just like stuck with it. And then made it in Hollywood and was like, hey guys, I want like hundreds of millions of dollars. I'm gonna get Emma Watson. We're gonna make a Noah flood movie. So it was pretty cool.
Which again was also cool because his vision to me, like Aronofsky has such a strong vision. Like there isn't like I don't think there's a single movie of his that just feels like visually like feels flat.
Yeah.
Like everything is like this is Darren Aronofsky. So even Noah I liked quite a bit, but yeah, no. But no, going back to Brendan Fraser, yeah, like I hope like it's cool to see him working with all these directors again and kind of coming back out. So
I love Brendan Fraser. He's in some of my favorite episodes of Scrubs. If you have not seen those episodes, I don't want to give away anything. That's one thing.
Nice. No, I've not seen much of Scrubs, but I probably should watch it. It's one of those shows I should go back and watch because you're like the 10th person that has told me to watch it.
Free on Hulu, baby. Free on Hulu if you pay for Hulu. Yes, I mean, what else? I just want to wrap up too at Jesse Plemons and all of that. Jesse Plemons is just in a movie called Power of the Dog. It's a Netflix original movie. It's not my speed for a movie. I'll probably watch it just because it's Benedict, it's Kirsten Dunst, it's Jesse Plemons. One of the cool things
Cumberbatch too, right?
Yeah, so Cumberbatch, I believe, gave himself tobacco poisoning twice on set of the movie because he had to like chew tobacco.
Damn.
And like
how do you get tobacco poisoning?
I have no idea, but I remember reading about that. And then Kirsten Dunst and Benedict Cumberbatch didn't talk to each other the whole time they were making the movie. Because I think the movie is their brothers. Jesse Plemons marries Kirsten Dunst. Benedict Cumberbatch does not like his brother's sister. So like on set, I think they were like very rude to each other or just very like they didn't pay attention to each other. And then after it wrapped, it was like, hey, Good,
interesting.
Good working with you.
I definitely want to check it out. I don't know much about the director, Jane Campion. I've heard her name brought up so many times. She has pretty big filmography. But yeah, I don't know much about her, but I'll definitely check it out. And you said it's on Netflix?
Netflix original movie. Yep.
Oh, cool. Yeah, I'll definitely check that out. Yeah, and I guess another bit of very recent news. The other day, new trailer for Sonic the Hedgehog 2 came out. And
I can't believe it was that quick.
I know, really, seriously. And we talked about it in another episode because we really liked the first one. Surprisingly, like even after all the stuff that went through with the redesigns and everything, like they'd end up producing something pretty funny. And I think it rode the line between being like kind of a cutesy family movie, but also still like for anyone that ever played Sonic or liked Sonic, it's still they didn't forget about the fans. And I fucking love Sonic, man. Like those games are awesome. I used to play. I mean, one of my friends, he introduced me. I remember way back in the day, Sega Genesis, and this was, well after the Sega Genesis came out. But we were playing, the original game, Sonic and Tails, or not Sonic 1, 2, 3, Sonic 1 through 3, and then Sonic and Knuckles, and
Sonic Pinball is fantastic.
Oh yeah, Sonic Pinball is awesome. Oh my god.
I think we should bring up. We are going to do a video game movie podcast at some point because there's a new Mario movie coming out, which for that episode, we need to revisit the original Super Mario movie with John Leguizamo and fucking Yoshi. I mean, that movie is a train wreck of brilliance.
It looks, I honestly, I've never watched it in full. I've seen bits of it,
Yeah.
And it just looks wild. I really want to watch it. And also, what's his name? So it's John Leguizamo is Luigi, right? And then
John Hopkins, right? What's his name? Who's the bad guy?
yeah,
Dennis,
it's
Dennis,
Bob Hoskins, right?
Bob Hoskins. Yeah.
Bob Hoskins, which is crazy because that dude's a great actor. I'm definitely excited. And I'm also like most people, I'm like, what the fuck is the new Mario gonna sound like with Chris Pratt playing him?
It's animated, right?
I think so. I think it's gonna be fully animated.
If they do it SpongeBob style, I'd be a little more excited. I watched the last SpongeBob recently. I think it's free on Paramount Plus.
Mm-hmm.
The last one, Sponge Out of Water. Just like the last one, it's like mixed with live action. And this one has Keanu Reeves playing a sage, dressed up in sage, and his name is Sage. And it's a couple other good cameos, and it's very funny, the SpongeBob movies. But the new Sonic, I can't wait for. I'm so excited that Jim Carrey's returning because he's one of those people that like you could definitely see him doing one Sonic and being like, nope, not touching a sequel. And then they're like, where do we go from here? But it's got Jim Carrey reprising his role. James Marsden's in it. Everybody's back in it. And then this one, Dr. Robotnik pulls in Knuckles as the other bad guy, and Sonic now pulls in Tails as his ally. So they're bringing in a lot of characters.
And again, that's more in line with the games because it's funny. Yeah. I saw an article. I don't know if it was the AV Club or something, but they were like, oh, this new Sonic movie. They're like, they make Knuckles a villain, which is a departure from the games. And then all the comments were like, who the hell wrote this? Like, because I think up until Sonic Heroes, Knuckles was always the antagonist. Like, he was always against Sonic. So it's cool that they kept that. Obviously, Idris Elba, very unique choice. I love Idris, so that's kind of cool.
Is he Knuckles?
He's Knuckles, yeah.
Who's Tails?
I don't know. I haven't looked it up yet. I actually I was trying to like figure out just by watching the trailer because his voice sounds very familiar. But he sounds great. They both sound great. I'm also really happy. I mean, this was teased at the end of the first one, but Jim Carrey now looks like Eggman. He looks like Dr. Robotnik, like the actual true Robotnik. So it's awesome. It looks really fun.
Colleen O'Shaughnessy. It looks like she's played Tails maybe in another animated show or something, but yeah, I guess she's a voiceover actor that they cast for this role. I'm cool. Super excited. I think they shot themselves in the foot with the first movie because with how bad the designs were, nobody was confident enough to see it. I mean, I do not know many people have seen Sonic the movie because they're like, oh, that piece of garbage with the thing and the thing. And I'm like, please try it. Like, I promise you it's really good. And everybody's like, nope. And I'm like, I laughed my ass off during the first half of that movie. It's extremely funny. And Baby Sonic in the beginning.
It did pretty good though, right? Because I thought that this came out like a month before lockdown, pandemic and everything. And I remember it still made quite a bit of money. I think it still hit like 300 million or something on like a 90 million budget. And
I was gonna say they're making a sequel already in 2 years. So, I mean,
Well, I think you're right though. Like, I think that like that initial design and like it turned a lot of people off. But like us, I think most people I talk to are like, no, the final product was surprisingly good. And I think the second one honestly looks a lot better as far as again being more in line with the games. Some of the action looks really cool in it too. Like it's a good blend again of CGI characters in like a real world setting. So
I like how they introduced the coins and there's still the loop-de-loops and everything. So that part's really exciting about it too. I'm just gonna leave there we go. This green, I just gotta set up my green screen behind me. You have anything else for movie news?
Nothing.
Spider-Man's coming out. I think next week. The new one. Tom Holland just signed on for another trilogy of Spider-Man movies, which is super exciting.
Still gotta watch them. I still haven't seen any of the new Spider-Man, which is crazy because he's always been like one of my favorite comic book
I need to
characters.
go back and revisit the last one with Jake Gyllenhaal because I never finished it. I just got super bored with it. But this one's gonna be great. I mean, this one's gonna bring everybody back.
Yeah, and Toby's gonna be in it. Like obviously, Toby. Like I feel like it's I don't know. I know it's still like up in the air, but he's got to be in it. Him and Andrew Garfield.
I saw a post the other day. I think it was one of my Facebook friends where they posted saying that like every nerd out there. Oh no, it was a comedian. I think it was the comedian. I think Mike Lawrence posted it. Yeah, somebody I follow on Instagram, and he said that like all these nerds were like, when Andrew Garfield got cast Spider-Man, they were like, "This is the worst decision. I hate this. He's terrible. I have no interest." And now all of those same people are like, "If he doesn't come back in this new Spider-Man movie,"
yeah,
and
right.
like, that's pretty funny. Yeah.
Honestly,
But, yeah,
did you see
Resident
the
Evil's
Garfield
out.
movies?
Garfield?
Yeah, the Andrew Garfield Spider-Man movies.
Oh, I was like, that's such a weird transition. I was like, Bill Murray?
Yeah,
Bill
you like
Murray.
Garfield movies?
Bill Murray signed on to do the Garfield movies because he got the director's name wrong. Like, the director's name had the same like last name as somebody else he knew and liked. So he signed on thinking he was going to be working with that director, and it was a totally different person. He had no idea. I also just learned this kind of upsets me. I just learned that he wasn't supposed to be in Zombieland. They had one big actor who fell through, then another big actor, that one that like is unnamed, fell through, and then like last minute, I think Woody Harrelson called up Bill Murray or something. And he was like, "Yeah, I'm in town. I'll come shoot it."
Nice.
I mean, two surprise cameos in the history of film: Tom Cruise in Tropic Thunder playing Les Grossman, and Bill Murray in Zombieland. I mean, I can't think of anything that has made me like laugh, cry, and almost wet myself more than that scene in Zombieland.
Oh, it's classic, and I think that's what you just said there about how it was so last minute. I think that's part of like the brilliance of it, where they just had like, they wasn't like planned. It just was like quick on your feet. Oh shit, we have access to Bill Murray. Let's obviously make this happen.
Could you imagine it any other way? Like in any other alternate universe, if it were anybody else, it could have been the best actors ever, actresses, and I would have been like, yeah, it would have been better as Bill
I know
Murray.
it'd have to be like somebody else that's an enigma like Bill Murray. I don't know. It'd have to be like Al Pacino or something. But now you're right. Nobody's like Bill Murray. So
Bill Murray. I mean, you and I could get Bill Murray in one of our movies. Bill Murray does not have an agent, does not have a manager, does not do anything like that. The only way he does movies is you have to call his phone and leave a message on the answering machine. And if he likes your pitch, he'll return your call. So like anybody has the potential to get Bill Murray in their movie if you have a good enough pitch. In the words of Jonah Hill and Channing Tatum in 21 Jump Street, you do have the right to be an attorney.
Yeah, right. Yeah.
God, those movies, man. So what do you have for what do you been watching? What do you besides Breaking Bad, of course?
Yeah, surprisingly, I've been watching more shows. I'll get to those in a sec. But movie wise, yeah, there's been a lot of new movies I've watched in the past month or so. Actually, I'm gonna bring up a list here because I want to kind of go in order. But I know one of them I saw was Eternals, new MCU movie.
How was it?
Honestly, pretty good.
It's worth seeing, yeah.
I would say so. I mean, I have such a like tumultuous like relationship with these movies because like I'm like, I don't know. I know it's funny because they're all like so well received. All these movies get like critical acclaim, and yet I feel like they get forgotten about pretty easily. Like because Shang-Chi was fine, but again, like I don't really remember too much from it, honestly.
Whoa. I was gonna bring up seeing Shang-Chi. You thought it was fine, and you don't remember? It just came out. You forgot about it already?
I mean, I remember some stuff about it, but like I'll say this much: visually, Shang-Chi might be one of the better MCU movies.
I have not seen the new Mulan movie. I have no interest in the new Mulan live action. I haven't seen the live action.
No, same.
Aladdin.
I'm not interested in any of those.
The live action Lion King I thought was garbage. Anyway, that being said, I haven't seen the new Mulan movie. I know they don't have the little cricket in it or the dragon, I don't think. But I feel like Shang-Chi, they should have used half of that movie to make the new live action Mulan because the dragons were cool. I mean, like, I loved it. I loved it because I just finished watching Kim's Convenience with the star of Shang-Chi. Awkwafina, I think she's a funny kind of...
She's good in it.
I like her as the sidekick in movies. I didn't know if I was going to love her as like a whole entire like main character. I mean, she adds a lot of humor to it. He adds a lot of humor. Her becoming an Avenger now, I think is super exciting. I thought there was going to be some twist in there where like she was born into it, but like, nope, she just learned some archery and is now an Avenger.
All right. Well, I'll say this much. I think I really like the sort of dynamic between Shang-Chi and like his father. Like that's
super interesting.
Yeah, there's a good dynamic there. I wish it maybe was a little bit more. I don't know. There was a little more to it, but I don't know. I guess my biggest thing with it. Okay, maybe this movie is more than just fine, but I guess my issue, like with most MC movies, it just has to follow suit. They all have to kind of they all have to fit into this grander universe. And to me, like, not that that's inherently a problem, but when you do that, you literally have to, you kind of forsake your own identity. You forsake the identity of an individual movie. And I don't know, these movies tend to just kind of feel like maybe a little bit too similar. And again, follow that template. They all kind of have similar sounding jokes. I don't know, the structure is just too similar in a lot of these movies. So it's like, I don't know. That's why, again, that's kind of why I like Eternals a little bit more, even though Eternals still has a lot of issues with it.
Kumail Nanjiani, that's why I wanted to see Eternals.
And he's
also
great.
It also has the first gay Avengers, right? Gay Avenger. Or first male and male man on man.
Yeah, so that's within Brian Terry Henry's character.
Yeah, he's great. He's hilarious. Is he a comedic relief in that, or is it more just Kumail Nanjiani?
Pretty much, he like, yeah, I'd say the two of them are kind of more comedic relief. And like, I don't know. To me, here's the thing that my problem with Eternals though, like, even though like visually it's also one of the, I think visually, like, that Eternals and Shang-Chi are some of the better looking MCU movies. And Eternals, because like at the end, instead of like fighting in like boring cities and like all that, they're on like this like grand epic beach, and like it looks really cool. I don't know though. I think the only problem is like the Eternals might have one of the heavier like narratives to, where you're dealing with like literally like gods, these people that have been around for like who knows how long, like millions of years or whatever. They're like even longer than that.
That's too long. The guy in Shang-Chi, the dad lived 1,000 years. That's too long.
I know.
He literally got bored of just destroying the whole world. It was like, I'm gonna settle down with a nice lady now.
Yeah. I think just so it's like, yeah, it's like you're dealing, and again, they got Chloe Zhao, who like could definitely like deal with these kind of concepts. I just think there's so many moments in the movie that don't feel like we're watching these like larger than life characters. And maybe that's because they have to interject that like typical Marvel humor where it's, you have these like funny reactions or whatever. But I don't know. And even the initial scene when they all like showcase their powers, it's not like as cool as it should be. Even though later in the movie, when you start seeing them use their powers again, it becomes a lot like more creative in how they utilize them. But I'm all about that when it comes to movies. Like, you want to have a strong start, and like the start of Eternals is just like, a little bit of like text, basic exposition, and then showing off some of their powers in like a sort of cool but not super impressive way. But like I said, like acting performance wise was pretty great, and I thought Kamal was actually one of the better performers.
He got jacked for this role, man.
Yeah,
jacked. He's gonna be one of those people who doesn't do stand up for like 30 years because he's starring in every movie, and then he's gonna be like 60, and Netflix is gonna give him like $100 million to do a stand up thing, and like he'll go on tour again. Everybody's gonna be like, oh my god, this is like when Eddie Murphy and Robin Williams returned to stand up. Yeah, I don't have a crazy interest in it, but I'll tell you why I do want to see it. One, when it hits Disney Plus for free, I'm on board. I want to watch it because I just watched Shang-Chi, which I loved. I loved the endings, staying for the final scenes. I just watched WandaVision, so I'm like nerding out on Marvel right now. That's why I want to add Eternals to the list. I even want to watch Black Widow because it's free on Disney Plus, and I have no interest in Black Widow. Just like Hawkeye and Black Widow to me sound like the two most boring things in the world.
Well, Hawkeye looks kind of cool just because it looks like a departure from everything, but
I haven't seen the trailer, so I'm sure it looks cool. Maybe I'll go back. I like Haley Steinfeld and whatever, but like to me that's like having a Harry Potter spin-off about two moguls in Harry Potter. Like imagine there's like they're at the train station and they're about to run through the wall, and there's just two people about to get on the train that are just normal people that aren't wizards, and now we have two spin-off movies and shows. I'm sorry. I know Black Widow. No, wait, does Black Widow die? Yeah, she dies on the planet. She sacrifices herself, lets Hawkeye live because he has the family. She saves herself.
Oh, yeah, okay.
How did Black Widow and Hawkeye live that long through Ultron and all of the other things and all of the Avengers movies when they have no powers? They jump and they shoot stuff. And you're going to tell me that they are surviving. Their storyline's boring.
Well, again, that's kind of another like issue I have with all these movies is that there's like inconsistency with like certain characters, and you're like, no, don't get me wrong, like Black Widow is like a world-class fighter, Hawkeye arguably has the best shot in the entire world in this universe. Like he can, I mean, God, even in the first Avengers, he shoots an arrow from a plane with like a USB attached to it into a fucking USB port. Like so I'm like, all right, so he has the so
sounds
I understand
like a Home Depot, or sounds like an Office Depot commercial.
I know, right? Yeah. But I know what you're saying that you're like, despite being world-class fighters, like, yeah, they don't have special, they can't create shields in front of them. They can't blast crazy atomic power. They can't do any of that kind of stuff. So it's like, how have they survived this long, I guess, is a good point.
Ultron just brought down 10 of his alien allies to come down. They shoot fireballs and are indestructible. And then Scarlett Johansson does like a backflip and then shoots them and they all just die. And you're just like, oh, sure, that makes complete sense. Yeah, that gives me hope for when aliens come down to destroy humanity and that we have two people who are just pretty good at martial arts who are just going to save the whole world. I do like Linda Cardellini and the whole like Hawkeye going back to his family and the farm life. And I'm guessing that's what the show explores a lot, which will be interesting. I also could be lying, but I think I'm going to skip around. I watched WandaVision. Did you watch it?
I did. Yeah.
It's like one of the most brilliant things I've ever seen. It's just so unreal. Every episode watching the theme song, which is made by the same people. I think it's a husband and wife or sibling.
Yeah, duo. The first like 4 or 5 episodes, are like all like the different decades of television.
They like kind of snuck in a Full House one with Elizabeth Olsen.
Yeah,
it was like Full House and Step by Step kind of.
The shows and a Malcolm in the Middle one, which was like super surprising.
That was so good. Yes, it's exactly definitely Malcolm in the Middle. So I love that. I think I'm gonna hop around because it suggested Loki next. I don't know the exact order. All I know is that I really, 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 really want to watch Winter Soldier and Black Falcon next. I don't care much for Loki. Don't care for Hawkeye. Don't care for. I think there's one more Marvel show. Like for me,
I'm personally more interested in Loki at this point than the rest, just because I think Tom Hiddleston's Loki is like one of the best.
Yeah, he's fun.
He's one of the best realized characters in my opinion in the MCU.
He's fun, but Hawkeye and I mean the cast of Hawkeye and that Winter Soldier, but it takes place like immediately after everybody's returned. So from what I've heard from friends, a lot of the show revolves around like them dealing with, people coming back after 5 years and trying to, What were you saying about Loki?
No, just like, other than, really liking Tom Hiddleston's performance, I like the concept behind, like, I don't know much about it yet other than like, there's like the time, like police or something. And Owen Wilson's like the head of that who like, is going into different multiverses and like trying to like stop stuff from expanding and becoming worse. And I don't know, to me that's a cool concept. And obviously that's kind of this is like the current phase of Marvel, the whole like multiverse. Now it's going to be in Spider-Man, and so we'll see how like creative and kooky that all gets. But
we need to make a YouTube video of Owen Wilson just saying wow, and that's how he blasts himself into other universes. He's like, wow. And
we're going into outer space. Wow.
Wait, so how do you teleport? I just say one word. What's the word? Wow.
Yeah, wow. Yeah.
Does ow work? Nope. What if you say wow backwards? Yes.
Yes.
Yep. Mom doesn't work. Yeah. All right. So what else you been watching? You got a list going on.
So other movies, Spencer, with Kristen Stewart playing Princess Diana. Really great. Honestly, one of my favorites of the year. Like Pablo Larraín, who also made what did he make? Jackie. Made Jackie back in 2016. And great director. And I don't know, this movie's crazy because it's sort of semi-fictional, I guess, if you want to call it, because it's sort of an imagined scenario of Princess Diana like on like a specific weekend dealing with her family, and it's almost set up like a sort of like a psychological horror movie because she like the way they shoot their palace, it's almost always surrounded by fog. It looks like it's in like this like netherworld almost, like existing on its own. She obviously is having a hard time sticking with the traditions of her family. It's kind of eating her, tearing her apart. Kristen Stewart's amazing. It looks beautiful. It's again surprisingly like kind of spooky and like out there. I really love that one. Also,
I was gonna ask that what it covers. Like, I didn't know if it was like up to her death or just like one event or her whole life.
I think it's actually like 4 or 5 years before her death, and it's not a traditional biop like in any way. It doesn't follow her from childhood until her death or anything. It's just as one, which I like more because I think it gives more reign for Kristen Stewart to really tap into the character and not have to rush through all these like different scenarios or different events in her life. Um, but yeah, it's cool, and obviously it's like super anti. It's like super anti like like her family and everything, which I thought was interesting. Like they don't like all of her family. They mostly showcase in this kind of like in this light of always being unaccepting of her and not like not understanding why she's not kind of fitting in her role.
Her royal family, just
her royal
not,
family, yeah, like they're all kind of
yeah.
showcased as like super traditionalist, like elitist, So
I'm curious about what her family thought. You know what I'm saying? Like
I know, I'm really interested what they thought.
So are the kids are the sons in it? Are they children in this movie? Are they not born?
Yeah, because it's like the early '90s, so they're like 7, 8 years old. I want to say, yeah, or maybe a little older, but yeah, around that age.
Yeah.
But yeah, no, it's great. It's definitely one of my favorites of the year. Also, I finally saw Venom too.
What'd you think?
Let Them Be Carnage. It was fun.
I loved it. Fun and funny. I mean,
very funny. Yeah,
very funny.
I think they like you were. I remember you mentioning it last time. They really nailed like the kind of banter between Venom and Hardy, and like super well done.
The buddy formula of like two buddies being best friends, and then at one point they have a falling out, they go their own separate ways. Venom literally leaves him and goes clubbing and into a bunch of bodies. People who everybody dies who can't take care of Venom and be have Venom, but it's literally the buddy recipe, like the trope of the buddy comedy of like they're best friends, then they have a falling out, and then they realize that they truly do need each other, and then they come back together at the end. Like it's very unique and just so funny. And what I like about it is like he still doesn't know how to control Venom. And that's what I like the whole cooking scene in the beginning and all of that. Like that's what I really like about the movie is like there's still another 2 or 3 Venom movies that could come out where like he's still learning how to control him. It's not like movie 1 is kind of a sloppy funny movie, and then movie 2 he's like, I got Venom. Like they're still hot messes together, and that's what I really liked about it.
Yeah, which is great because that's unique. That's more interesting to watch. And you're right. I know there's like Venom mentions at one point that the only he needs brains to survive. Basically, that's like there's like a chemical. There's some kind of something in brains and chocolate for some reason that like enable. It's like it's his food. It's the only thing he can eat that sustains his life. So there's all bits about that. Woody Harrelson having fun with this super like crazy villain, very over the top, but like in a good way.
Great backstory. I love the revenge backstories. And,
he has a cool backstory for sure. And for the most part, all the action was really cool. Really like pretty crazy stuff, especially obviously the fight between Carnage and Venom. So I liked it a lot, and obviously like doesn't overstay its welcome. It's like a nice 90 minutes, really short, especially for modern comic book movies.
And it ties into everything else, right? Like the Marvel movies, I think it has double scenes and all of that.
Well, I guess spoiler now, but that's at the end of that's at the post-credit scene when
what was it?
All right, so if you don't, skip ahead a couple of minutes or a minute if you don't want to hear it, because basically, so the post-credit, I think they're like, they're just chilling. Like they go, like I think he literally goes to like a resort in Hawaii or something. They're just like, they're chilling, and then on TV. Well, like something happens, like the whole like their environment changes, and like what the fuck's going on? And then they turn on TV, and then it's revealed that Spider-Man's identity is revealed as Peter Parker, and then Venom's like, "I'm gonna get you" or something, and then it ends, and like so they tie directly pretty much to the new Spider-Man movie, which I thought was crazy.
Yeah, because it is the only movie in between them, except for Eternals, right?
Pretty much, yeah. So I thought that was crazy, and I'm interested to see what they do with that. I don't know.
Yeah, because I mean, Venom was in the Spider-Man movies. I mean, emo Tobey Maguire, he could be coming back.
Oh, true.
And Topher Grace, is Venom.
That'd be great if like everyone just came back. Like, Topher
it's a
Grace.
3-hour movie. I mean, it's playing at the drive-ins near me next weekend, and I saw somebody commented like, "What else? Like, what else is playing with this?" And they were like, "Nothing. It's 3 hours long."
I've seen memes where it's like, they have like the portal that's in the MCU movies, and like the person that's coming out of it is the landlord from the Spider-Man movies, and it just says rent. Like they they should have him. They should have everybody Fuck it at this point.
J.K. Simmons, Sam Huntington, the
Oh yeah.
Brandon Ruth. No, wait, that's Superman. But still, I guess that's
fuck it. Bring DC in too. Merge it
I don't
all.
know, yeah.
To where it's all headed anyway, I guess. But no,
Yeah.
that movie was cool. And then just to say quickly, other stuff I've seen very recently. I saw Come On, which is the new Joaquin Phoenix movie. That was sweet, really nice movie.
Him with the little kid, right? I've seen a couple ads about it.
Yeah, it's really nice. Mike Mills, really good director. Encanto, new Disney movie. That was really fun. That was a very sweet movie too. Music by what's his name?
Manuel.
Yeah.
Lin-Manuel Miranda. Yeah, he does every Disney movie now.
Yeah, he's great. His music is very good. And then one of the last movies, or I saw 2 movies very recently. I saw Benedetta, which is a new Paul Verhoeven movie. It's like a sexy, provocative nun movie. It was awesome. And then
Sorry, what?
Yeah, it's a sexy, provocative nun movie.
We don't have enough of those. We really don't.
No.
It's been
it's been nowadays.
It's been since what? Sister Act 2 that we've had one.
Yeah. No, Paul Verhoeven's awesome, man. Like,
what are you saying? I want to say bless you. Is that the director's name or is that the
Paul
genre?
Verhoeven? Motherfucking RoboCop and Total Recall? Come on, like.
Sorry, Paul Verhoeven?
Yeah.
It sounds like you're trying to speak Swedish.
Paul Verhoeven.
How many words is it? 3?
2. Paul. You know the name Paul. You've probably heard that before. Yeah. And then Verhoeven.
Verhoeven.
Yeah. It's spelled. Look here. It's like Ver, and then like ho, like you're a hoe, HOE,
yeah,
and then.
Of course.
Yeah.
Well, that's how you. No, HOE is how you spell the garden tool.
Oh, that's right. That's right.
Yes,
yes.
So you just called me a garden tool, which is actually functioning and helps feed the world. So thank you.
You're welcome. Yeah, that's what I meant.
Paul Verhoeven.
Yeah, Paul John Bon Jovi. Yeah. It's awesome. I'm so happy I was able to see it because I guess it actually got pretty wide release. Like I just saw it in an AMC, but it was really cool.
Cool.
And then what else? I saw like 2 days ago. Oh yeah, House of Gucci. I saw House of Gucci very recently too.
How was that?
Overall, I had a lot of fun with it. I don't think it's very long. It's like over 2.5 hours. I don't think its runtime was justified, even though I know there's a lot they could. There's a lot of history within Gucci that they could have worked with. But in this case, I don't know. It's weird what they decided to focus on. Although I will say, like, everyone for the most part is pretty great in it. Lady Gaga, really good in it. Same with Adam Driver, Al Pacino,
Jared Leto.
You know what? Even Jared, I'll give him credit. He was like. Because he was technically one of the only real empathetic characters in it. Like
Are you not a Jared Leto fan?
No, I like Jared Leto enough. I just think that a lot of his performances, he's kind of trying a little too hard, maybe sometimes.
Like what? Besides Joker, like what?
Like Joker? I don't know. Nothing's coming to mind right now. But
Jared Leto set a world record for touring the most a band has ever done in a year. 30 Seconds to Mars toured like 240 days of the year. Then he came home, lost a bunch of weight for Dallas Buyers Club, and won an Oscar for Best Supporting Actor. Where do you think he's gone too over the top?
Well, hey, let me talk about House of Gucci. Like he like I say, he's like one of the only empathetic characters in it because he's the only one that isn't really conniving. Everyone else is out for blood. Everyone else is trying to steal something. He's the only one that basically he's just a part of, he's the black sheep of the family. Like he has his own ideas for like the designs he wants to implement within the company, but his own father, his uncle, nobody takes his work seriously. He ends up getting fucked over. So like I kind of like that, and he plays that pretty well. I just think his accent in it is a little distracting at times because it's a little too, like bippity boppity. Like it's just, it sometimes it feels a little too like stereotypical, I guess. But I liked him enough. Like, here's the thing. I do like Jared Leto. Like, there's plenty of performances from him I love. Requiem for a Dream, we were just talking about that earlier.
Of course.
But
American Psycho.
Oh, true. He's great in American Psycho. But I don't know, like it's movies like this where I don't know. Again, it's just like too much at times. Like the makeup, the fat suit, like his accent. Like sometimes it's just like okay, like I get what you're trying to do, and but no, I'm not trying to disrespect Leto. I like Leto.
I have zero interest in the movie. Like, I don't even think I'll watch it when it's free. It's just, yeah. The whole movie seems overly dramatic. I love Stephanie, Lady Gaga. I think she's a fantastic actress. I loved A Star Is Born. I think she'll be one of those people who doesn't do music for 10 years because she just moves fully into acting. But once I saw the trailer of her like make with the cappuccino on the ski mountain, and she was like, some people think that I'm rather and I was like, nope, zero interest in this movie. Like, it seems like a soap opera, the whole movie.
Well, I'll say like that's the weird part. I feel like it's trying to be two different movies. It almost wants to be like a Scorsese level like crime epic, but it also wants to be this like self-referential, like kind of like silly, over the top movie about these like larger than life characters, which is fine. But I don't feel like it ever merges the two that well. Like there's times where it's like, oh yeah, I forgot we're supposed to be this serious like crime dramatic movie. Let's get back into that. And then, oh wait, but no, this movie's also trying to be like kind of silly and like over the top. So it doesn't do the greatest job at that. But like it's obviously fun to watch. Like Al Pacino's great in it. Everyone's great in it. I think everyone is having a lot of fun and doing their thing in it.
Does Al Pacino go hoo-ha?
I don't know if he ever gives us a full hoo-ha, but
not even one.
Not that I remember, but it's still great in it. And but yeah, I think like I said, I just don't think that, at least in this case, what they decided to focus on, its 2.5 hour runtime was really justified. Yeah. I just feel like there's too many moments where you're like, okay, like what's happening? Like really, it just kind of felt like there was kind of like segments on the movie where nothing was really progressing, and they kind of we're trying to hyper focus on Gaga and Adam Driver's kind of relationship and how that was deteriorating and falling apart, but.
Yeah.
Which was fine. I mean, again, all their scenes were really good, but I don't know. It just kind of felt like a mess of a movie.
I came up with a hilarious joke earlier. I forgot to do it, so I'm going to do it now. This is my impression of me wrapping up starring as one of the people in the first Eternals movie, and then immediately getting fired and not being brought back for the second one. So the director's like, all right, this last day of shooting, everybody. Kamal, Jennifer, what's it? No, wait, who is it? Angelina Jolie.
Mm-hmm.
Everybody, thanks for doing this movie. Mikey. Hey, everybody. I'm not big for speeches. I just want to say it's been such an honor working with you guys. Being a star in a Marvel movie is really great. And I just want to say I'm eternally grateful to be working on this movie with you guys. And they're like, we're going to replace you. You're going to be...
for days.
We will kill you off in between the two movies. It's funny. I think this is one of the first times that you and I have, like, in between, not watched any of the same things.
Yeah, which is crazy because
Yeah.
What have you seen?
How much time do we have? God, so many. Every once in a while, I want to put together a list of everything I'm watching, and then like be like, "Hey, here's the list." But so I watched Zola because it was free on something. And I was like,
yeah.
All right, I liked it. Good, like 16-minute movie, exactly what it should be. Coleman Domingo playing.
Oh, he's great.
Typical character that he is. Yep, I liked him. The cast is great, especially when you look up the two main women and you're like, wow, this is who they are. Like they're good at playing this character. And then of course seeing Nicholas Braun play the character he plays, because I watch him as cousin Greg every Sunday on Succession. Sundays have been huge for me for television. Sundays have just been the best days of the week. I used to hate Sundays. I only consider weekends as Saturday and Friday night, because there's like the time off, and then Sunday you do chores all day and think about how you have to go back to work. So for me, Sunday has been great recently because you have Dexter, Dark Passenger, which is fantastic. I'm really liking it. The last episode also like revealed something where you're like, is it over? Because they're calling it like a mini series, so you don't know if they're like only planning a season, seeing how it goes. But the last episode is kind of like, oh shit, this is a big reveal. And then Sunday you have Curb Your Enthusiasm, which is always fantastic. John Rudnitsky's been in it, a few other people recently. Seth Rogen was in an episode. Then Sunday also has Succession, which I'm enjoying, and then Yellow Jackets, which I cannot recommend anymore as a TV show. It's the best piece of television right now. It's Melanie Linsky, Juliette Lewis, and Christina Ricci. Basically, it's about a Oregonian soccer team. I believe, high school soccer team of girls called the Yellow Jackets. They're traveling for a game, and they crash in the Canadian Rockies. This is not spoiling because this is the premise. They're there for 19 months. And then the show follows them like 20 years later, the ones who got out alive, and follows them. And there's a mystery element to it that I think I'm appreciating, depending on where it goes. But it's just, I don't know. Like, my favorite things out there are people crashed on islands. Lost, Lord of the Flies, Castaway. I mean, just like things about people on crashed on islands are always great. This is not an island. Every time I refer to the show, I keep calling it an island. They're in the Canadian Rockies. But it's phenomenal.
So
television.
it is. I know there's only a few episodes out now, but like so far, is it all about them in like on the Rockies, like being stranded, or you said it takes place 20 years after the events?
So it's about three timelines, I'd say. It's like them in high school, like leading up to the plane, like a couple weeks before. You see who they are, what they're doing with their lives, where they want to go to college, who's dating who, whatever. Then every episode, and I just traveled to North Carolina for Thanksgiving. Every episode, you see the plane crashing. It's just not fun to watch right before you travel. But it's about 4 or 5 episodes. The end of the second episode, I don't know why so many shows are doing this lately, but the end of the second episode, you just go, oh my God. Like, the end of the second episode will throw you for a giant whirlwind where you're like, why was this not the finale? Like the closing scene of the season. But yeah, so it follows them right before, follows them a little bit on the island or in the woods, and then 20 years later, and basically somebody's come back to try to like stir up some stuff about what happened. And that's not even me holding back on spoilers. You just don't really know much what's going on. So follow those 3 periods. You don't see them in the woods as much as I want you to, but I think that that's kind of like part of the mystery and finding out who's going to survive all 19 months and all of that, because they've only showed us a few of the people 20 years later, but that doesn't mean that everybody else died on the trip. So that's great. And then what else? A Million Little Things. Been watching a little bit of Celebrity Wheel of Fortune in the background. I've been watching Speechless and in the background during that's a great sitcom from a few years ago during work. I'm binging Will and Grace for the first time during work. Started 8-Bit Christmas yesterday, which I need to restart and watch. It's a HBO Max original movie, and it's kind of like the new Christmas Story. It's Neil Patrick Harris telling his daughter the story of how he got a Nintendo back in the late 80s. So I think it's going to be very nostalgic. It's a nostalgic kind of movie.
Oh, okay.
So there's that. I'm really excited to see Resident Evil and Spider-Man whenever I get around to seeing those.
Yeah, so I gotta see Resident Evil.
But I'd say really, I'm trying to think of what else I've been watching. I mean, I'm always watching TV all day, every day. Bachelorette is finishing up, which means Bachelor starting soon. Football, of course. I love the football's games as well. You know, Patriots throw them touchdowns. Yep. That's pretty much it. And I think a couple things are coming back early January, right before my birthday, so that's exciting. This Is Us comes back January 4th, final season. So that will be interesting. They're cutting it. I mean, I think it's one of the best TV shows ever made.
Oh, really?
And This Is Us. It's phenomenal. If you like drama, I mean, drama D.
I do. Drama. I've always been interested in it. I guess what's kind of held me back is, I don't know. I never like to judge anything just based on a trailer, because that's, I like to just watch it and see what it is. But everything I've seen from it, it just looks hyper melodramatic, which isn't a problem necessarily. It's just like for me specifically, I'm like, do I want to lean into that right now? But no, I should check it out, because
it can come off.
You talk it up. You talk it up big time, and so do a lot of other people I know. So
yeah, This Is Us and A Million Little Things are 2 very dramatic television shows that are great. But This Is Us is great. I mean, it's one of those shows where I love any show where the main character is like a ghost. 6 Feet Under, like Richard Jenkins dies in the opening season of 6 Feet Under, and he's in the whole entire rest of the show. His ghost kind of plays their like self-conscious. You have Rescue Me, where his brother-in-law dies in a fire and is still throughout the whole show. This Is Us it's not like that, but I guess the thing is like everybody knows this. The dad dies in a fire in This Is Us, but the thing is like he's in the whole entire show. The whole entire show is in the future, the past, the present, the this and that. That's what I love about the shows. There's one mystery that they've been leading up to for about 4 or 5 seasons that I'm pretty sure is how the show's going to end. but there's so many twists. I mean, we just found out about a breakup in last season, and like you find out in the finale, there's so many twists and turns and things you don't expect, and storylines and sub storylines where like I even joke that there's gonna be an episode where we find out like who their caveman ancestors are, because like one season opens up and it's just like this new white family in Philadelphia, and you're like, they look like they're in like 1940s clothes. I don't know. Is this Jack's great grandfather? And they just really like move around with everything. So That's I'd cool. Recommend that. Yeah, but I mean, I could go on and on about what I've been watching because all I do is watch TV. But...
Right. I mean, I've been watching more too. I'll just say quickly, just because I know we want to get to the main subject for today. But I just finished True Story, which is a limited series on Netflix with Kevin Hart, which was actually really good.
Heard a lot about it.
Yeah, I would check it out. It's like 6 or 7 episodes. Kevin Hart, very everyone's great in it. He is really surprising.
Who plays his brother? It's another big actor, right?
Wesley Snipes. Awesome. He's always great in everything. Everyone's great in it. Yeah, it's cool. It's really nice, self-contained, relatively. I think it's like 4 hours total, like 4.5 hour kind of thing. So easy watch. Very, and there's parts of it that gave me anxiety in the same realm of like a Safdie Brothers movie, like Uncut Gems or something. So I applaud them for that. And then the other show I've been working on, almost done with season 1. I think I literally have one more episode. Is Marvel's The Punisher on Netflix, which is great. It's really great. It's one of the better Marvel-related projects I've seen in quite some time. Crazy violent.
I've heard good stuff about it. I just love John Bernthal. So
John Bernthal is so good in it. Like one of his best roles. He owns it so much, and I like it's. There's a hyper focus on like the military and like how soldiers coming back with PTSD and how the problems they bring back home, and all that's handled really well. Great show. I'm excited to finish it and get into season 2. Those are some of the.
Is he like a super soldier or something in it?
I mean, like he doesn't really have like superpowers, but he is like an elite, like better than most. Like he, and obviously like the whole premise is that his wife and children were taken from him. They were killed right in front of his eyes, and like that's kind of like the motive. Like he is literally punishing those who did him wrong. So like I don't know if I would say like his a lot of his strength literally comes from just his own anger, his own wanting for revenge. But yeah, I mean, he is like technically he's like this like super elite soldier. His hand-to-hand combat, his general strength, his like the way he handles a gun is pretty crazy.
I love the movies, both of them. The sequel's super low budget with a different actor. And it's the second movie's like unbelievably violent, like very, very intense.
Who plays the Punisher in those 2 movies? Who plays Frank?
First one, I believe, is Thomas Jane, and John Travolta's the bad guy.
Oh shit! Okay.
I have no idea about Punisher 2. I'm telling you, it's like super low budget. If you ever want a really fun movie, Smokin' Aces. It's a good kind of violent heist movie in Vegas. That's another movie that got a sequel, and the sequel is like very low budget as well, but a lot of fun. So let's see what the original was. Original was Thomas Jane, John Travolta. Yep, good cast. Samantha Mathis. And then let me look up. I don't even know who plays him in the sequel. Let's see. The Punisher. But the second one I just remember watching and being like, this is like unbelievably violent. Like I've never. Punisher Warzone.
Oh yeah, Warzone.
Came out in 2008, and that one is Ray Stevenson, Dominic West. Nobody I really know, but it was good.
Dominic West is a good actor.
Yeah, good cast, but yeah. So before we talk about what we're really here for and kind of introduce the theme of today, I wanted to bring up our sponsors. This is our 17th episode. We have 2 sponsors, so we're very excited. Our first sponsor, water.
Classic water. I have some right here.
Water.
You can see it because of the green screen I'm using. But it's there, trust me.
Quality H2O. It's what Adam Sandler promoted a lot in that movie he did, Big Daddy.
Oh, yeah.
Shampoo is better. And then I have a card here a note from our second sponsor, which is super exciting. In between our hiatus, during our hiatus from last episode and this episode, we get a brand new sponsor to the Weiliotis podcast, and that sponsor is Trees. So we're super excited to have them helping us out, being a part of it. I have to read this from them legally. Trees. Some are big, some are tall, some are large, some are small trees. So yeah, excited to have them be a part of it. Do you know if, I don't know, is there a website we are supposed to promote?
I don't know about a website, but I think that, they mentioned just, if you go outside, you might see some.
Yeah. You can find them anywhere. You can get them anywhere. They help us breathe. So that's pretty exciting. Yeah.
Oh yeah, great sponsor. Very good to have on the podcast.
Yeah. I think everybody loves trees, so that's exciting. But today's theme, we've been working on this, I think, since last Halloween. But today's theme, we're gonna try to probably do a few more of these throughout our sessions. But basically, the theme today was, hey Tom, what's the most disturbing movie you've ever seen? Mikey, what's the most disturbing movie you've ever seen? All right, let's watch them and talk about them. So just a brief introduction. My background, as you can see above me, is from a 1980s movie called Society that Tom had me watch. And his is from a French-Canadian horror film called Martyrs that I had him watch.
So we both came out with this a while back, and a little bit of a double feature kind of deal, talking about two movies that we each recommended. And like I said, it's in this case it's two really kind of disturbing, fucked up movies that we have seen but the other hasn't. So like
that stuck with us.
So my first time watching Martyrs, long time coming because I've heard about this movie forever, and then Mikey's first time watching Society.
Did you watch? Let's talk about like initial reactions, but what did you think when you first started looking into it? Like, you knew of Martyrs, I didn't know of Society. Did you rewatch Society before we did this podcast episode?
I did actually. Yeah,
I did not rewatch Martyrs, so I like to think of this episode and our last episode as therapy. For me, the first Wrong Turn movie, the 2003 one, that and Hills Have Eyes have given me like some of the worst nightmares I've ever had for movies that just stuck with me.
Yeah.
Just growing up in New Hampshire, growing up in the woods, and just being right there. Martyrs, I would say, is the most disturbing movie I've ever seen. And I live to go see The Green Inferno and Midsummer and the movies that are on the top rated, most disturbing banned movies, and people were vomiting, getting carried out on stretchers and fainting. I live for those movies. Martyrs, I guess my brief history is my sister worked at a video store when we were kids growing up. She would always bring home, movies before they came out. My mom raised us on ghosts and aliens and Twilight Zone and all, vampires. So I don't know if it was 2008. So I was just entering college. I don't know if my sister was still at the video store. I don't know if those existed then. I don't remember. But I remember my sister brought home Martyrs, and me, my mom, and sister sat down to watch it. Dad's not into horror, so we watched it. And the whole entire movie was gruesome, hard to watch, really disturbing. I remember looking at my sister and being like, this is too much. Like, why would, like, you brought home a lot of, like, fun, messed up movies. I don't know why you did this. And then...
So, you watched this with your whole family?
My mom and sister, yep.
Nice. Wait, how old were you guys?
So it's 2008, so I was, like, 22 maybe or something.
Okay.
Yeah. So it must have been right around there. And I remember feeling that way. My mom and I were like, this is too much. Why would you make us watch this? And she's made us watch fucked up stuff before, but it was like, this is too much. And then I think we talked about this maybe a little bit last episode, but just like Cannibal Holocaust, one of the most banned movies in the world, the end of Martyrs, like the last scene, everything comes together and it all makes sense. And it's not, I would say this is kind of torture porn, but not torture porn, where in the sense of like, it's not shock value. And it's not Human Centipede, where there's no real message or motto or anything. There's no lessons learned, and then it just ends, and you're like, okay, they made that to make people throw up. Like, we'll get to it, but the end of Martyrs is really.
So, well, that's a little pre-discussion we had before we started recording. We're like, like, this is kind of fall into torture porn, and that's obviously, we'll get into that. I know, like, like you were like that was a good movie you just mentioned, Human Centipede, where it's like those movies are definitely going more for shock value and grotesque imagery, and not that this movie isn't to a degree, but there is a lot more behind the meaning. There's a lot more to do with like our central character who's dealing with like her quite literal demons, that is haunting her and whatnot, and
it's
but
realistic. I think that's what makes it
yeah,
the scariest. Is like, you watch like a Jurassic Park movie and you're like, that's scary, but it's not gonna happen. And this movie, you're like, oh yeah, this could happen to any of the 7 billion people on the planet. This is, yeah.
exactly. And I think well, it's interesting too. I didn't even realize this until like very recently, until we started planning to record this, that we both recommended both these movies, but we did not intend that both these movies would have some similarities as far as like both involving like like kind of the rich elite who are like controlling the lower classes, because that's like kind of a prominent theme in both these movies to very different degrees, but that's still like a central thing in both
societal
these movies.
wealth and privilege, and the high class just doing whatever they want because they can. There's no punishment for them.
Yeah, and maybe society, it's a little bit more out there. It's a little bit more like, especially nowadays, it's more almost like conspiratorial. I could see someone like nowadays being like, the rich are, they're literally sucking our blood, and so they can stay alive for hundreds of years, and then
it's not far from lizard people and all of that. I mean, like, I could see society being a real thing. Like, I could see that being also.
Well, I guess so much the execution is like at the end, it's grotesque, but it's more on like the over the top silly way. But then in Martyrs, there's a lot of philosophical questions that are posed at the end, and about like the afterlife, about why they're doing this in the first place, and obviously they're all fucked up for doing this, but they have their reasons for doing it, even though they try to justify why they're doing it, at least.
So how would you describe Martyrs? Like, if you were to pitch it to somebody, like, what would be your synopsis? What would be your tagline? How would you explain it?
I would say I would say being tormented by, we're following someone who's tormented by their past, and they try to reclaim, take something back from what was stolen from them, only to only to uncover more fucked up, more horrible and cruel truths. That's probably the best way to put it, because the movie starts off with like we see excuse me, we see like a young girl. She's running out of like a factory, out of some mill or whatever, bloody, horrified, screaming, crying. And then we cut years later. She's, I don't know, like 10, 15 years later, she's now an adult, and she seeks revenge on those who kidnapped her and were tormenting her. And so it starts off kind of like a pretty typical like revenge movie, and very quickly does she kill the people who we at least assume tormented her, who were the ones that captured her and tortured her. For at this point, again, we don't know why. We don't know why these people did it. We don't know why she was tortured. We don't know any of the meaning behind it, other than people be fucked up. And then so she kills. It's like a family now. This mother, father, and the two kids too. One of them being, what's his name? Hold on, will come to me. He's a director. He made Lawrence Anyways, Mommy. He was in It Chapter 2. He died in the beginning of It Chapter 2. What the fuck's his name? Hold on. Let me see what it is. It is... Oh, Xavier Dolan. Yes, he's the kid. He's the teenage son that dies in it.
I forgot. Like I said, I didn't rewatch it because I don't think I want to ever watch this movie again.
It's
like
hard
Joker.
to watch.
It's like Joaquin Phoenix Joker. Like I loved Joker, Joaquin Phoenix, but like it's so hard to watch and depressing, and it sticks with you for like days after you watch it, and you're like, one's good enough. One's enough. And
yeah, I've only seen the Joker once too, and I loved it, but yeah, it was a hard watch.
I mean, and Martyrs too, I just want to point out, is a 2-part movie, kind of like
yes, very much,
kind of like Wrong Turn, the new Wrong Turn. Wrong Turn is a final girl film for part of it, and then it's a survival movie, it's a horror movie, it's everything. This movie is essentially, the first half is revenge movie, and then the second half is a torture movie, and it's just like very divided between like the two. They're very different movies and themes, and
Yeah,
Yeah.
it feels relentless, honestly, and in a good way. But like it's a lot to take in because again, we're at the start, right at the beginning, girl being tortured, and then she's an adult. She kills the entire family, including two kids, and like with a shotgun. So it's like just these brutal deaths. And then you're right. So like once that happens, we kind of quickly learn, and we see some imagery in the beginning, but we quickly learn that this main girl we're following. Um, what's her name? Lucy, I believe. I think Lucy's the main girl. So Lucy, she has like quite literally like a demon. Um,
Jurin, it says Jurin.
Jiren. Let me see. Yeah, Lucy Jiren. So
Okay.
Lucy,
Oh,
yeah,
yep. Got it.
and then her friend who Anna. So Anna is kind of like tagging along. I don't think has any idea that she's actually going to kill these people. And that's kind of what starts this whole thing. But yeah, so after she kills them, she kind of starts like hitting her head, and she's talking to somebody in her. She's talking to like this. I don't even know what you call it, but yeah, it's basically like a demon, like a manifestation of all of her traumas, and it takes it takes the imagery we see is of this like almost like a tortured person, like this like cut up demon who it just looks horrifying, and what did you think about that? Because for me, I liked it enough because obviously you're right, this might technically be one of the more like more realistic aspects of the movie. It's not like she kills these people and then it's like, all right, cool, like we're good now. Like she's trying to fix a part of herself, like she's trying to literally like fix, like I think she even says at one point, she's like, is that enough? I killed them, like it's over. And yet this unfortunate psychological demon in her mind is not satisfied. Like it's obviously killing people, it didn't bring her the peace she thought it would. um
And that's what the whole first half of the movie is. Like you said, she's haunted by a literal demon. When she escaped the slaughterhouse where she was being tortured, you find out that she could have saved somebody else, but got afraid, or I think she wasn't able to cut her loose. So she wound up getting free. And then you find out, obviously the other woman was killed eventually in the
oh
slaughterhouse.
yeah, so the person she had to leave behind.
Yeah,
Yeah,
and
that's
that
right.
person haunts her forever to the point where we'll just walk through the whole movie. That's the whole first half of the movie, is her getting revenge and her just dealing with that literal thing on her shoulder, just that person haunting her and her guilty conscience. And it gets to the point where she winds up killing herself because she's like, I can't, I don't want to deal with this. Like, I've killed this family, how, like, I could kill everybody that is held us responsible, but I'll never be able to forgive myself for not saving that other woman, which I probably could have done, but I was too scared, or I was too selfish and wanted to get out. Which puts us all into that same case. It's like one of those, like, movies where it's like, yeah, if your best friend had, needed a heart transplant, you watch a movie where somebody's like, hey, I'm gonna give my heart to you, and I'm gonna, like, and it's like, that's sweet, but like in real life, would you do that?
Yeah,
Like,
like, if
I
you're
mean,
thrust into the moment, yeah, would you make that hard choice? And
and there's one movie real quick I have to bring up. Oh
yeah,
my
yeah.
god, Joaquin Phoenix, and hold on, I think it's called Return to Paradise. I think we need to do that on an episode of this. Do you know this movie?
I don't know.
1998 film. It is starring Vince Vaughn, Joaquin Phoenix, and Anne Heche and Vera Farmiga. It is not based on a true story, I don't believe, but let me just tell you the plot. Okay, so basically, yep, okay, three best friends go to Malaysia. They're all New York City New Yorkers. They go to Malaysia and they just have some fun. They steal some bikes, they smoke some hash, they have a good time. Vince Vaughn and the other guy, played by David Conrad, go back to New York. Vince Vaughn's about to start a taxi company. They're all starting to get their lives, on track. And the Malaysian police, show up, and Joaquin Phoenix is there for an extra day. And they're like, we heard you stole some bikes. You're stupid tourists. This happens. You guys get drunk. You do stuff. We're going to take the bikes back. And then, we know you're leaving tomorrow. So it's all good. As they're leaving, they find a fire of hash burning. They bought a bunch of hash and they wound up just burning the rest of it. They
Hmm.
find the hash and they arrest Joaquin Phoenix, and he is sentenced to a Malaysian prison for the rest of his life, where he's basically like beaten and just starved, and just, it's a terrible, terrible prison that he's in. Anne Heche plays his sister, I believe, who's a lawyer. She sees him in the prison and then goes back to his two best friends. And it's like, listen, if both of you go back, his life sentence will be reduced to 33 years. If one of you goes back, his life sentence will be reduced to 50 years. However, you'll also have that same life sentence. So the whole entire movie is two guys in New York City about to start their lives. Like, do we go back and reduce his sentence and throw our lives away? Or do we just carry on knowing that we could have done something and now our friend is probably going to die in prison just because he stayed an extra day? Anyway, long story. Really makes you think
cool.
about...
Wait, what's that movie called?
Return to Paradise.
Oh, okay.
My mom showed it to me back in the day. Really makes you think about friendship and how that all works. But anyway, back to Martyr. Yes, back to Martyr. And I do want to point out, too, I like to nerd out a little bit. Martyrs was directed and written by Pascal Laugier, French-Canadian movie. I'm not going to try to pronounce any of the other people in the movie. But yeah, came out May 2008, premiered at Cannes, which makes sense. Was that September 3rd, 2008, released in France. 99 minutes.
This would have been a wild movie to see at like a film festival, like
But it's a film festival movie. These are typical, like.
Oh no, I mean I saw House that Jack Built.
Oh, like, you did?
Like one of the first showings at Cannes, and it was great.
How was it? Is it hard to watch?
There's a few scenes that are hard to watch, but it honestly the movie has like kind of like a playful tone to it, like the way it goes about everything there are like 2 or 3 scenes that are disturbing. One of them is it just involves a little duckling, literally.
That's Matthew Dillon, right? The kind of
Matthew Dillon, or Matt Dillon, yeah.
Matt Dillon, yeah. And that's Lars von Trier as well.
Lars von Trier, yeah. So
it's been on my list for a while, and the trailer makes it seem kind of comical, kind of like
it's fascinating. I mean, I don't know how many movies you've seen from him, but like
like all of them. Yeah.
Oh, cool. Okay, so you'll probably like it then. Yeah, it's
well, really... nothing's more disturbing than Antichrist, right? This can't be more disturbing than Antichrist.
Yeah, it's not as disturbing. Antichrist, no.
If you have genitals, Antichrist will stick with you for a long time.
It's just messed up. But oh man, what was this? But yeah, anyway, seeing that like with like some audience members for the first time, it's great because like I was excited because I'm like, all right, I'm like I just want to hear reactions. I want to see what happens to people, and like you had some people that were audibly but like, and you had some people that walked out, but ultimately like when I was done, my people I was with, we were all like, no, that wasn't a movie that would like unless you're like 80 years old, I don't think it would necessarily like offend you that much. But like
if you've been to a film festival, I think that's like the norm there. Like
yeah,
there's documentaries, there's animated, and then there's just like, hey, this is gonna shock the whole world. Who wants to buy it from us?
I remember seeing another movie there. I wish I remember the name, but it was about 2 like ogres who were still living within the like contemporary society. Super good. I wish I remember the name of it. It will come.
Is it live action?
Yeah. It's all live action. They're not like ogres like Shrek. They still look like people, but like just like their noses and their general body size is a little different, and everything. And super fascinating. But that movie had a scene fucked up, a fucked up scene, way more fucked up than anything in House of Jack Built. But I guess. But again, going back to it, like Martyrs, like to me, like seeing this with an audience for the first time must have been really wild. Just because this movie is so intense, and obviously, we mentioned, Mikey mentioned earlier, this kind of falls under the French extremist, or French extremism, which is kind of like a collection of movies, that don't really hold back. I know, the last episode we had Mike on, he actually talked about High Tension, which is another, I think, French-Canadian movie that also falls in that realm. We got to see that. That could be another movie we talk about in the future.
I remember that very well from the early 2000s.
I remember I remember people talking about it. I remember it was a big deal. I just never saw. I never got around to it. But it looks wild. And Mike talked about how goddamn intense it is, and that's what I felt about Martyrs. Where like this movie is relentless and never lets up. You're always on the edge of your seat, and also too, like, so we kind of said the first half is more revenge, if anything, psychological horror too. The latter half is more kind of broad, just kind of like torture torture movie, and we asked earlier is if this kind of falls into torture porn, and honestly, I kind of think it just narrowly slips out of it because like it is. I would say this movie is probably like a grotesque for a lot of people. I think there's a lot of people I can even think of who couldn't handle this movie, who wouldn't want to watch this movie.
I couldn't handle this movie. It's
Yeah.
it's so on Wikipedia, Society, which we'll get to, is labeled as a body horror film. Martyrs is listed as a psychological horror film. I just want to point out real quick that I think everybody thinks that Japan is the go-to horror movie place. You know, like obviously The Ring and The Grudge and all of the kind of ghost stories. Like, you know, Japan makes a lot of really, really good horror movies that we adapt, but like the French make a lot of great movies too. They made Them, I believe it's called, which is the original, the original Strangers, which is fantastic. And then the Swedish make great horror movies too with Let the Right One In, that was adapted over here. So there's a lot of like other places to explore when it comes to horror. You know, I think we just always go to like Japanese ghost movies, and then you're like, oh wow, like the French make really good horror movies too.
Oh, they do.
And Martyrs was remade too. I even watched the remake, and I was just like, nope. And I'll tell you, remake. This is where me and Tom are different, is like I still haven't seen Minari or Parasite because I can't read for 2 hours. I mean, when I watch a movie, I have the audio going and I have the subtitles, because sometimes I'm reading my phone and I'm listening. Sometimes I'm listening to a car go by and I'm reading the subtitles. I need like a little bit of everything, but I can't watch a movie where I have to read subtitles for 2 hours. Like my ADD doesn't allow it. So I think that's why, I would still rather watch the French Martyrs more in the English, like American version, because it is that good. It's that good. It's better than the remake. And it's just like, I would watch this, this is the one I would recommend to people 100%. I mean, they say the new one's pretty shot for shot remake, I think. And it's similar. It definitely is. There's like 1 or 2 scenes that really change it up, but all right, keep telling me your thoughts. So we get to the part where she kills herself because of her guilt, and then pretty much immediately after killing herself, the society, the group of people come in and take her friend.
Yeah, we'll say before they even come in, so her friend Anna, we haven't really talked about her yet. She, again, is just kind of tagging along. She had not endured the same horrors as her friend, but she's there. She's moral support. She's there to help her.
Some obviously weird moral support.
Yeah, well, I don't think she didn't. I don't think had any idea she was just gonna blow this whole family away with a shotgun, and so like she's trying to kind of help her through all this, and eventually, because of her demon, Lucy ends up cutting her wrist, killing herself, and now it's just Anna left there, and at first I was like, what's gonna happen now? She just killed herself. I'm like, okay, what's Anna gonna do? And she ends up kind of like staying at the house. And pretty much because she ends up finding the lair that's in this home. So they have their own bunker where, this family would torture people, and they would carry out their business. And she finds a woman down there who, who the hell knows how long she's been there. But she obviously, it's pretty much, it looks like she had been down there for years being tortured. She had crazy cuts all over her body. She had like a metal like chastity belt. She had like a whole helmet covering her eyes. She looks like she just had the works done to her, and she tries to help her. She brings her out of this like bunker, brings her up into the actual house, takes the helmet off her head, which that's also a really gross scene because there's like metal spikes that like go into her head. She has to like pull the pins out. That part's horrifying. And yeah, that part also messed me up too, because she tries to like, to talk to her, to try and help her, but she's just way too far gone. She's just been tortured for way too long. And then after that, that's when the people, the institution that handles all this comes into play. They find out what happened to the family, and we're introduced to just Mademoiselle, right? That's her name. I don't think she has another name, just Mademoiselle. And she is like, at least from what we gather, she's kind of the head of the leader of all of this. She conducts these events in which people are tortured, and we slowly learn that she does this, or they all do this, for the sake of trying to understand the afterlife, trying to understand, I guess, what happens afterwards. It's fascinating. This is, I think, where the movie really goes in a unique direction, And I think what's interesting is that she explains, they capture Anna, um, and you can tell by the image behind me if you're watching this, they handcuff her, and they start talking to her about other events in history where people were tortured, and they reach some kind of like euphoric state. They transcend, to a different realm, if you will. And I think that's where they assume that in this very moment, when someone is undergoing so much pain, they enter this state and they're able to see what nobody else and no other human is able to see. So that's their justification. That's their whole reasoning behind torturing random people. Which is horrifying because obviously they seem like such well-spoken high-class people, but obviously like they're just administering like some of the worst acts ever committed to any person ever. Yeah, super fascinating ending. And that's also like
let's talk about the ending.
Yeah, that's also where it ties. I think it ties a lot into society in a lot of ways. But yeah, I don't know. What do you think about kind of this aspect of it? Because again, like this is where to me, like what's great about Martyrs too is like again, for as brutal as it is, we're slowly it's almost like continually justifying its brutal nature. It's a revenge movie, and then again we slowly learn that it's not just this crazy person that's fucking up people, because like if you look at Hostel, I would say Hostel, if anything, is more 1 and 2 are more torture porn because
just for the hell of it.
Yeah, and granted, I like those movies a lot, especially the second Hostel. I think that one's great, but it's kind of just, hey, rich people have money, they got money to burn, they got nothing to do. Fuck it, let's just torture people because we can get away with it. In this movie, it's not the case. They're not necessarily crazy or just having fun. They're trying to literally using their money to understand like what happens when we die, which I thought was really cool. I thought it was really fascinating.
And you didn't know anything, right?
No, I didn't know anything about that.
Yeah. So the end of the movie, basically, Anna, the main character. So the whole movie, like all of the women are beaten every day within like an inch of their life, fed like water and oatmeal, and they're just given nothing. And you find out at the end of the movie, basically, that these women were being used as martyrs by a bunch of elderly people who were about to die. And they hired this organization to torture these women into almost death, so the women could see what the afterlife was like, as they were transitioning into it. And then essentially these old people were going to show up and then either be excited about what was going to come next or be a little weary about it. But that's what happens at the end. So let's talk about the end, because Madame, how do you say her name?
I think it's just Mademoiselle.
Mademoiselle. Yeah, let's talk about that. So at the end of the movie, Anna's on the table. She's been skinned alive, which that is really probably the worst part of the movie. She's hung up on hooks.
Oh yeah, that imagery is just
I don't think there's anything worse than that. I'm reading the Wikipedia page, super interesting. So the director said the film was rejected by all the big French studios and also by a lot of actresses. The film was really supported by Canal Plus, the only television channel in France that still finances some unusual projects. He also comments that the main difficulty, other than the technical issues such as special effects, was to keep the actresses crying the whole time, and that was too demanding. Interesting. So at the very end of the movie, the guy who is torturing the woman is torturing her, calls in Mademoiselle. I can't say that. That's so hard. No, I can't say that. Calls her in. She goes up to Anna's ear. Anna whispers into her ear. And as the elderly people are showing up to get their verdict, Mademoiselle goes into the bathroom and shoots herself and kills herself. And the whole mystery of the movie is, what did Anna see on the other side?
Yeah, and we're left to decipher.
Why did Mademoiselle kill herself? Because Anna saw nothing, and Mademoiselle felt guilty for torturing all these women and killed herself to because she was guilty? Or did Anna see something so euphoric and beautiful and wonderful that Mademoiselle was like, I need to kill myself and get to that other world? And that's the thing is, I wonder if you could look into it and see like what actually was said. Because there are plenty of directors who 20 years after their movies come out are like, oh, this is what was written on that. Like this was the thing the whole time that, So,
and that final scene too with Mademoiselle is crazy because I think the assistant asks like, oh, like, was she able to communicate clearly? And she goes, yes. And then she just says, keep doubting, and then kills herself.
What does that mean?
Exactly. And you know, yeah, there's a lot like that's the ending to this really got me because not that I expected there to be a clear answer. It definitely didn't. Like once I learned about this whole institution and them trying to uncover, you know, like creating their own martyrs and trying to understand the larger truths of life, I knew we weren't going to get like a clear answer.
Yeah.
But at the same time, you're right. You made a great question. Like just the very fact of her killing herself, it makes you wonder again. Like, yeah, did she feel guilty because she had spent her life torturing people for no reason?
And there's no afterlife, or the
at
afterlife's
all.
terrible.
Is there an afterlife? And she realized that and just wanted to get there as fast as possible.
But if there was an afterlife and that was that beautiful and euphoric, and Anna was telling her about it, would she really think that killing herself would get her to the afterlife? I mean, that's the whole talk about heaven and hell with the movie too. Is do you think that, you know, if you kill yourself, you go to hell? That's your thought, basically, of what it is. So, I mean, my question is, would she really thought that she'd go to the same place Anna's going, especially having tortured these women for so long as well? Did she really think that she'd? I think that's the only thing that would steer me towards Anna saying there's nothing after this. You know, I'm transitioning to the afterlife, and it's just emptiness. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Like, I don't know. But and then the old people show up and you're just like, oh, this all makes sense.
Yeah. I don't know. Yeah. I don't even, I still, there's nothing I can specifically at the moment, like pinpoint, like, yes, I think this is why she killed herself. I think this is what Anna said. But yeah, I guess I would fall more into what you said, about maybe there being no afterlife at all. It's just the void. You go back to non-existence, you know? So it's like, but again, it's all this like sort of philosophical musing that I like, because it brings more to the table, and again, it does make this more than just another like Saw or Hostel. You know, this, like I said, this the brutality in this movie feels justified, and again, like it's not something I'm gonna watch often. But in the future, it is something I would like to revisit, though, because it is such a like brutally honest and you know, unique movie for sure. And now now I'm interested. I want to go check out more in the kind of French extremism route. I want to go check out High Tension, some of these other notable movies that have kind of dug into people's subconscious, have really made an impact in cinema. So yeah.
I'm reading what did Anna whisper at the end of the movie Martyrs? There's so many forums.
Oh yeah, that's something I don't think you don't know that either. You don't know.
No. I think it's gonna be one of those things we'll find out in like 10 or 15 years. Like the director will do an AMA on Reddit and be like, oh, by the way, this is what she said.
Oh yeah.
Or it'll be one of those things where somebody in an interview is like, I think it's this, and then the director will be asked about it and he'll be like, that's pretty close. And that's all we'll ever know about these kinds of things. We should do a whole episode on movies with that leave you hanging, that you don't know. I mean, Interception, with the thing spinning, the little dreidel spinning the whole entire time, and you're like, whoa.
Oh, the end of Inception. Yeah.
Inception is great. Don't get me wrong, fantastic, especially in theaters. Great movie, but like Interstellar, I don't think anything will ever come close to that. I still haven't seen the last Christopher Nolan movie.
Tenet. Yeah.
The one that you kept movie theaters going during COVID by seeing so many times in theaters.
Yeah,
guys, we don't have to close down. Tom's
here. Yeah, I kept movie theaters alive, baby. That's what I do. Tenet was cool. I liked it a lot. But no, man, I think, I don't know if I like Interstellar, Inception more. Maybe Inception only because to me, and again, I guess this maybe bleeds more into nostalgia, but like Inception was like such a big movie for me at the time. I remember the hype around it. You know, this was post or right after Dark Knight, so there was so much hype for Nolan coming back to make a movie and you know, a wholly like original movie. And I don't know, I have a lot of good memories seeing Inception. I think I saw it like 2 or 3 times in theaters. But it was, you know,
this says a lot about me, and I get it. We've talked in the podcast. I studied film in college. I'm a terrible film person because I'd rather watch Sharknado 6 than Citizen Kane for a second time. I'd rather watch The Bachelor than most of the Oscar and Emmy nominated TV shows.
I mean, honestly, I just say it makes you honest. You know, like,
I'm honest. I'm so sick of period piece television where it's like, oh, hello, Queen. What's on the docket for today? And it's like, oh my God, there's that show, The Great, which is a comedy that's set in a period piece comedy.
Yeah.
And I'm just like, I can't think of anything I would rather watch less in my life. Anyway, all of that being said, I forget where I was going with this. What were we talking about? Martyrs, French films.
Well, yeah, I mean, maybe now kind of segue into society because, as I mentioned, and we'll definitely get into this very soon.
Oh, sorry.
Yeah.
I was just gonna say real quick that
yes,
this is a terrible statement. I'm gonna say it. I want Christopher Nolan movies to come out in 3D. I love seeing them in IMAX. They're great in IMAX. They're great in high definition, and they're great in 70 millimeter or whatever. But to see like Interstellar, Inception back in theaters in like 10 years, like reformatted for 3D, I know he'll never let that happen. But
yeah, because he never jumped on the 3D, right?
No, and like I don't think he will.
Yeah, I think Nolan. Because I remember like post Avatar from like 2000, like late 2009 to like 2013. I feel like because Avatar obviously was the biggest hit ever. So many studios were like 3D movies. We're bringing 3D movies back, and I remember there was I think Nolan made a couple like public announcements like, nope, not doing it. Like I'm not doing 3D.
But Inception in 3D when the buildings are full. I mean, like, come on, Nolan.
What's funny
give it to us.
Because, like, I'll say this much, and I think I already know the answer to it. But when it comes to 3D movies, do you prefer 3D movies that where like things look like they're coming at you, or do you like when it helps make more depth of field? Like
depth of field.
Yes. I agree with you on that. So,
but
Nolan movies would be perfect then.
Yes.
I agree.
Yeah. In Interstellar, where like Matthew McConaughey's in the bookshelf and shit. I mean, okay,
yes.
I'll put it this way. I there are two things I argue with people about. And by that, I mean, I argue with people about everything. But there are two main things I always stick to my guns about. John Mayer, best guitarist of our generation. I'll always argue that. In that, I'm going to say this is also category 1.
Yep.
Justin Bieber is amazingly talented. Doesn't make the best music, but he's amazingly talented. Lady Gaga is one of the most talented musicians in the world. Also makes garbage music. So, like, even if you hate her music, just know that she is still a bajillion% more talented than anybody on the radio or anybody ever. I'll always talk about that. The other thing I'll always say is that, like, 3D movies are so freaking worth it because after Avatar came out, when you're watching Avatar, you feel like you're there, your stomach's dropping when the birds are flying because of the depth of field that he made. So if you go see Avatar in 3D, if you go see any movie in 3D today and you take your 3D glasses off, I could be reversing this. The foreground of the movie is never in 3D, is always crystal clear.
Yeah.
The background in the movie is always fuzzy when you take your 3D glasses off. That's because when you're putting them on, the 3D is in the background, projecting the foreground, something like that. I remember seeing My Bloody Valentine in 3D back in the day, and a couple things would pop out, and that was fun. When you go to Disney or a museum, that might be fun. But since Avatar, every movie is now depth of field 3D, and you feel like you're there the whole movie, and there's nothing eye-popping. It's just there. And I think that I talk to people, I'm like, oh, did you see this in 3D? And they're like, no, I don't like 3D. Like, 3D makes my tummy hurt. And I'm like, when was the last time you went to a 3D movie? And they're like, 1997. And you're like, we have computers this big. You don't think 3D has gotten better since then? Like, go to a 3D movie. I saw it twice. I saw Ready Player One in IMAX 3D. And it was just...
Also, I forget that you can still see 3D movies. Like, there was a theater... There was one AMC near me right now that they were showing Eternals in 3D, and I was interested.
Yeah.
We didn't. My roommate and I never saw in 3D, but I was like, oh, so there are still some movies that have 3D showings.
I saw
it just seems kind of rare.
I saw Free Guy in 3D.
Oh, how was that?
Like 2 months ago. Yeah, it was great. It was a lot of fun, and I had the option of 3D or not 3D, and I was like, let's try it. It was a tinier theater, which, you know, I mean, 3D you have to see like on a big theater with good sound still to really make that whole thing. 4D is cool. I mean, when I was
gotta see that. I gotta try that.
When I was in Denver, I saw Lion King in 4D, which was 3D, and then there were like the seats move, water sprays down you, there's fire in the movie theater.
Oh shit.
And then the second one I saw, I think it was a Star Wars 4D, and it was something that wasn't in 3D, but the whole 4D elements, the smell, the this and that. It's cool. The fact that you can like go to a local movie theater and be in like a Disney World experience is...
Yeah, like, I actually agree with that because You're right. It's like, you pay a little bit of money, you may pay a little bit more than a regular ticket, but yeah, you get to have a little bit more fun. And I don't know, I don't know if this was just at this one Jordan's Furniture in Massachusetts. Probably not. They probably had multiple, but there was something called Mom. And it stood for like motion. Some, I don't know what it stood for exactly.
Was that Reading? Was that the one in Reading?
So there was that one in Reading. I think they had a similar thing going on, but they had basically one of the theaters they had was it was like the 4D, so they had the motion seats, they had like misting water. And I remember specifically going like my mom and grandpa, I think, at one point, and like there was a SpongeBob. There was like a 30-minute SpongeBob short, and basically it was like an episode, but it was more interactive. Like SpongeBob's like, "Oh, follow me," and like he was like directing like the camera and everything. And I remember it was so much fun because, like, again, the seat lined up to all the movements on camera.
Yeah.
When they dove into the water, the mist would come up, and like, yeah, just fun, just a lot of fun.
So much.
Yeah.
I'm waiting. I live closer to the Natick, the Natick Jordan's Furniture.
Those are great theaters, though.
It's not open during COVID, but I grew up going to the one in Reading. I saw Noah there in IMAX. I saw the Polar Express in IMAX 3D. Saw an amazing documentary, Born to Be Wild, in IMAX 3D about orphaned orangutans and elephants in Africa. So that, and when you walk in, they have Fuddruckers, the jelly bean, the giant green monster eating the Yankees player.
Oh yeah,
that place is just, I mean, every time you go, there's a new thing. There's water fountains, there's trapeze. I'm waiting for those to reopen. But I probably experienced what you were talking about, definitely. Do you remember going to Boston Museum of Science and seeing the Omni Theater?
Yeah, the Omni Theater was awesome.
That was literally the whole ceiling.
Oh, that honestly might be one of the greatest theaters I've ever been in. Because right, it's your peripherals, even your peripherals, it's the screen and the top, so like you feel like you're there whenever they're showing. I think I'm gonna go soon. I haven't been in like a decade or two. We should go. Yeah. We should go because I'll be back in Mass in like a week, so that'd be great. Because I think last time I went there was like 2015 or 16. I went with my family. I think it was like my dad's birthday or something, and we were in Boston, so we went there and we saw a movie. I think we went to the Omni Theater, and
they're still doing Omni.
Yeah, we saw like some like a space shuttle movie, and like it was just cool.
My Nana saw a shark one there. That must have been cool.
Underwater stuff, yeah.
I've been thinking about Jaws 3 the whole time. The sharks are gonna fall through.
Oh, yeah.
I remember you'd like the. Do they still do the intro in Boston? Remember the intro was always you on the T going through Boston.
Oh yeah, I think they still do that. Yeah.
I saw one about the history of movie making back in the day. So like how the original King Kong was made and like the set design and all that. That was really cool. Yeah, so that's all I'm going to suggest is if you've listened to this podcast, even just this episode, you probably think I'm a real shitty film person because I like Sharknado and all of that and don't care for No Country for Old Men and all of those. But just try one new 3D movie. My only complaint is you can't like wear hipster glasses in 3D movies. Like I used to have like big glasses, like hipster glasses, even more hipster than these. And you go to like the movie theater and their 3D glasses are like this big.
Hell yeah.
So like half of you is watching it. But yeah, 3D movies are just fun as hell. The only thing I always recommend is there is a website called like to 3D or not 3D.com, which will tell you like if it's worth it. Like, is the depth, how like they'll rate it. The depth is 4 out of 5. The this is 4 out of 5. But I'll tell you, just Google if it was filmed in 3D or not. Like if a movie's filmed in 3D, I think it's always worth seeing in 3D.
Yeah.
If it's converted, it's probably not, and they're trying to make a couple extra bucks out of it. But things that are filmed, I was talking to a coworker about this. Final Destination 5, phenomenal movie. Don't think about the other ones. Final Destination 5, one of the coolest endings too. Really ties a lot together. That was the second movie to use James Cameron's cameras. So I remember seeing that in IMAX 3D. I remember reading about it. One of the cast members said that like while you were shooting, if you're like hanging from a building, if your eyelash falls off and comes towards the camera, you have to reshoot the whole entire scene. Like the 3D cameras pick up everything.
Oh, that makes sense.
Yeah, super interesting.
But yeah, that's a good point because you're right. If something is actually filmed to be in 3D, the depth of field, everything is just it's just actually gonna look a lot better than trying to take something that existed prior and it wasn't filmed in 3D, and they're trying to bring other foreground elements to the front, and it might look a little bit more flat. Might not look as convincing. So, because I've seen enough 3D movies now. I remember seeing movies. I saw I remember seeing some movies that again were converted after, some that were shot, and there is definitely a big difference between the two.
Yeah,
for sure.
Yeah, you can definitely tell. And I mean, like
Yeah.
Disney animated movies are usually pretty good because those are easier to convert and kind of move over. But I think I saw Titanic in 3D. It came out in 2012.
Yeah, I remember that
for the 100-year anniversary. I saw Jurassic Park in 3D. So even movies that clearly weren't filmed in 3D, they're still getting better at converting, and it's fun. Yeah, it's kitschy. Yeah. So Martyrs is great. Let's talk about society. Let's talk about, because I didn't think about it till you and I sat down tonight, that really they're very similar movies. They're very similar kind of meanings and history behind them. They're wildly different movies.
Very much.
I part of society to me was funny, and I was like laughing at how ridiculous it was, and then part of it was like extremely graphic and gruesome. So here's another thing is I don't know why I'm shitting on myself so much in this episode. It's like, I'm a person who would rather watch like a way newer remake. Like if you were like, hey Mikey, like, do you want to, I know you're like a big King Kong Godzilla like 1950s guy. I'm like, I want to watch the 2021 version with green screens and explosions and Bryan Cranston. Like I want to watch that. I want the cool stuff. I remember seeing there's 3 of the Thing movies. There's one from like the 1950s. There's the John Carpenter one from the 60s, 70s, 80s. And there's one from 2011 with Eric Christensen Olsen, Joel Egerton, and then the woman from 10 Cloverfield Lane, Mary Elizabeth Winstead. That is technically actually a direct prequel to the John Carpenter one.
Yeah. You're right.
Did you see that one, the 2011?
I didn't. I was excited for it because I've been a massive fan of the Carpenter one for a long time, and honestly, I don't remember. I haven't seen it like since 2011, but I thought it was like pretty decent for the most part.
And the end of it leads up exactly to the first movie, which was like so cool. But also, it's like it's also a remake. It's also a lot of similar shots and a lot of monster similarities.
Even the plot structure kind of takes a lot of influence from it. And
but when I saw that, I had not seen the John Carpenter one. I just went and saw that in theaters. And then I went back and I watched the John Carpenter one, and I was like, there's no way. I'm going to watch this. It's going to be a snore fest. I'm going to think the special effects are terrible. How can it compare to 2011? The John Carpenter one, man. I don't know how they did it, but that movie, and this movie too. This movie was done in the 80s, and I texted you during it, and I said, I don't think I would watch this if it were made today, because I don't think I could stomach it. But for what it was back then, it was still extremely gruesome and extremely disturbing and pretty hard to watch, because it's not just one scene. It's a slowish build-up, but the whole third act of the movie is just the giant dinner orgy.
Yeah. Weird movie. Let me give a little history quickly, because this director, Brian Yuzna, who made it, he had produced a lot of movies in the mid 80s for this other director, Stuart Gordon, who made Reanimator. Have you ever seen Reanimator?
I have not, no.
So
I know of it, but I have not.
Great movie. It's about like a crazed scientist who creates some kind of formula to reanimate corpses. And obviously that goes wrong. He brings back killer zombies, basically. Super cool mid 80s body horror movie. So Brian Yuzna produced a lot of these movies for him. And he had some kind of deal where I guess they wanted they wanted Brian Yuzna to direct a sequel to Reanimator. And he said, okay, again, like you were saying, one for them, one for me or whatever. He's like, I'll do that if I can make my movie. And my movie was Society. So Society was his directorial debut. And yeah, it came out in 89. And I know it came out in 89. I think in Europe, and then it actually didn't come out into the United States until 1992, where it actually flopped. This movie flopped pretty hard in the States, but I know in Europe it did really well, which ain't surprising because I know they're into this kind of stuff. And so yeah, it's fascinating. Like Brian Yuzna has a really unique history. I mean, he made this movie, but he also like helped pen the story for Honey, I Shrunk the Kids. Like he just
cool. Yeah,
he's had his hand in a lot of stuff. Super creative dude. And I didn't even know about this movie until way earlier in the year. One of my roommates bought this on Blu-ray, and I thought the cover was awesome, and that's kind of I was like, oh, this looks really cool. Like, let's check it out. And then I was like, oh, this is what this movie is. Okay.
You just saw it this year?
Yeah, like back in like February of this year.
Had your roommate seen it a few times, or was it new to him too?
New to him too, and he was just recommended it by somebody else, so it was kind of like a blind buy for him. So like totally just like out of the woods, like, oh cool, this looks unique. Read a quick like synopsis for it, and but yeah, did not expect especially the end. Did not expect any of that craziness. But I don't know, what were some of your expectations, and I guess like yeah, like what did you think about at least like the first half of this movie too? Because to me, it's almost like a psychological, like almost like detective-y kind of thing going on, where we have our main character trying to uncover what's going on with this weird elitist family and
going against his own family.
Why he doesn't fit in to any friend group or his family. So
so it's when I read the IMDb plot, because you specifically said like don't read ahead about it, don't read anything. And I read the IMDb thing, and I think it said, I don't know how I read it, but when I read it, it was something like a guy comes home to his family and they're different than you think they were. And I read that it was a body horror movie, which I think I took more as like a body snatcher. So I think like, I haven't seen Cocoon. Cocoon's been on my list for a long time.
Oh,
I picture
good movie.
it from what I know about Cocoon, I picture it's going to be that. Like this guy gets back from like spring break with his friends in high school, and his parents have been abducted by aliens, and it's like The Faculty. That's what I pictured it was. And I also thought it was gonna be a movie where like the last scene was crazy, but it's like I didn't picture the whole movie to be like that. But basically it follows this main character, Bill Whitney. He lives with his parents and sister in a mansion in Beverly Hills. He has a therapist that he's been telling that he's had these weird dreams about, that his family is not who he thinks they are. His sister's ex-boyfriend is like also kind of reading into everything. He turns up dead, and basically Bill's just trying to figure out what the hell's going on in this town, why his sister is sleeping with his mom and dad. I think that was one plot line. That was a little,
that's like one of the first big like reveals, because so Bill's sister, her ex-boyfriend, like I think in the front of the first scenes, he's like in her closet like recording her doing something, and obviously that she freaks out. He's still out of the house before he can explain himself. And then later in the movie, he contacts Bill on the beach or whatever, and is like, I have this audio recording, you need to listen to it. And, he's like, nah, get the fuck away from me. Like, you already broke up with my sister. And that audio recording is, of his sister and mother and father all having sex. Which obviously is just like totally surprising to him naturally.
And she's just like turned 18 and is now being like inducted into some family thing, and you don't know what it is. And she keeps preparing for it and is like, this is my future. I'm now going to be doing this. And like, and you're just kind of like, what is this going to be? So I guess her having sex with her parents, are they her actual parents?
Well, at least at this point, we assume they. I mean, I think it's always, I think.
So it is that fucked up then that she's sleeping with her.
Oh yeah.
It's not like they were like from different families and.
No, I don't think they're faking it or they're just pretending. No, I think they are just they are just related. Which is gnarly and weird, and it's the 80s. Like I like it a lot, because I've said a billion times on this podcast, I love psychological horror movies, and obviously like that's a broad term. It can mean a lot of things, but in this case, we're dealing with something I like because it just gives me anxiety and always makes me question stuff. But like characters in movies who nobody believes in them, like they're aware something is wrong, and they get gaslit constantly. No, this is all in your head. You're sick. You need help. When in fact,
the therapist is like, trust me. You trust me, don't you?
Yeah, exactly. I'm a therapist. Come on, you can trust me. So like, and like there's some cool imagery. I know in the beginning Bill is actually with his therapist. He takes a bite of an apple, and then there's like a bunch of like worms and centipedes and stuff in it. That's some gross imagery in the beginning.
So what is that? What's that message there? Were they in there?
Honestly, I think if anything, that scene is kind of just more on the nose, like metaphor. Like, hey, like this is what's underneath. A pretty apple, but underneath it's dark, and like I think because that's the whole point of the movie, where it's like on the surface everything looks fine and dandy, but underneath there's a lot of dark shit going on.
I think the therapist might have also been doing that to, now he's going to go home and tell everybody he saw a worm in his apple. So now when he tells everybody that his family's having sex with each other and eating other people, they're going to think he's crazy and that he's, like he was
like a boy cried wolf kind of thing a little bit. So like,
I mean,
that's what I liked a lot originally, or at first about the movie is like Bill is just like, he's a one-man band, he's on his own, other than, you're right, the ex-boyfriend who does end up getting killed. he's on his own. Nobody thinks anything is wrong with his family or society
The
at
audio
large.
recording goes missing somehow and gets destroyed, and now he has no proof left.
Yeah, well, if I'm not, I'm trying to remember. I think does he not give the audio tape to the therapist because he confides in the therapist. And he's like, listen to this, and then when he plays it back, he's like, what? He's like, it's completely normal, nothing's going on, which was definitely a mistake on his end, handing over the one copy of that. But
like, can you blame him if like your sister's ex-boyfriend comes to you and is like, hey, you know, our parents are rich. They're so rich that they do all this. You're just kind of like, get the fuck out of here.
Yeah.
By the time you learn that it's true, you're like, well, I should have kept the evidence. But the movie, I would say the first half of it is not that intense. It's more of that kind of mystery, kind of double film, kind of separate, where it's kind of the mystery. And it's just like, he's repetitively being like, Mom and Dad, you're crazy. And they're like, no, son, everything's perfect in this family. And,
but like that, they sound like that. You know, they're just like, what? Like nothing's going on. You know, like they just have this
Pleasantville.
Yeah, very like Pleasantville, and and I don't know who the actors are, but the actors that play her parents are great. They fit the role perfectly.
And then we get to the third act of the movie where him and his best friend, right? Excuse me, it's so early on my time too, but it's dark here now. It's dark here at 5 in New England, so you're like just waking up over there. So what was I gonna say? Yeah,
not that early, but I know you're saying.
I guess the third act is what him and his friend decide to infiltrate the party to find out if it's true or not, and like his friend like beats up the bodyguard outside and takes his police. That was my only problem with the whole movie. The only problem with the whole movie is him and his friend infiltrate the party after they've been shunned from the party. His friend beats up the cop who's patrolling the outside and securing everything, then puts the guy's hat on, the police hat on, and shows up at the party and is just standing behind everything happening going,
yeah.
And everybody's just like, oh, fake cop. Okay. And he's just showing up. He's like, and nobody does anything to stop him. That was my only, besides most of the movie, that was my only problem with this movie.
And now I'm remembering now too. So yeah, I don't think that the ex-boyfriend doesn't die until this final scene, right? He is like,
no, he dies early because he gets like hit by a car or something earlier.
Oh, okay, yeah, he does.
Yeah,
so he's with his other friend, and
and that's where he gets the audio recording. He asks the cop who's like zipping up the bag. He's like, "Oh, that's actually my tape deck. Can I get it from you?" And yeah.
But I agree because like at this point, so Bill already knows, or at least knows all this crazy body morphing weird orgy is happening. So like. You're right. He kind of reinserts himself back in without like a plan, really. Like there isn't like oh, how am I gonna get out of here? When they know that I'm not a real cop, when they know that I'm just like, or I'm just here watching all this, you know, like so. Yeah,
it's just like I mean, imagine like a movie like, what horror movies have we talked about? I always confuse Friday the 13th. Okay, imagine Halloween where Michael Myers is just killing everybody in town, and there's one person just showing up as he's killing everybody going,
yeah, right.
Michael Myers is just ignoring him and just like...
He's like, I'll deal with you later. You know?
Yeah. But yeah, so he shows up at the party. So this movie is so fucking relevant because over the last few years, Bernie Sanders has helped bring to our eyes, as have a lot of different people, that basically the rich are ruling the world, can do whatever they want, get away with whatever they want. Jeff Bezos is going to space, but can't pay his people more than $15 an hour. All of these billionaires out there are doing nothing for the good of the earth or the world. In my eyes, anytime they're ever donating anything, it's because their press agent and managers are saying, hey, you just made $1 million to take a shit in the last minute. Why don't you donate that to some charity?
Oh yeah.
So and it's, I think what's ironic about this movie, I don't know if eat the rich, that's been a big like hashtag this year. People are saying eat the rich and all of that. And I don't know if that's been around since the 80s, but that's what I found so interesting about this movie. Is like this movie is literally about rich people, I don't want to say sucking dry lower class people and feeding off of them because they're just peasants to them and nobody will miss them and they're there for nothing besides feeding. But that's essentially what this movie is.
Yeah, like they I guess a good word, it would be like they're almost like melding. Like their bodies, like as they're having an orgy, their bodies are like their hands are morphing into each other, their faces are morphing into each other, into this like well, again, if you're watching this, you can see Mikey's background. Their faces are like deformed and like eyes are melting into each other.
Very much like The Thing.
Yeah,
where they like attach to each other in The Thing, and they're like sucking, and like their faces are. But what was the point of it in this? Is that how they eat? Is that how they feed? Is that they get stronger? Is that how their skin complexion stays healthy?
Well, to me, I assume that's sort of like the over the top, the very on the nose meaning, where it's like quite literally the rich people are. It's kind of like, again, how we said, like, there's conspiracies about like how the rich drink the blood of the innocent, drink the blood of the youth to stay
bleeding
young.
us dry.
Yeah, so it's a very direct, like, they're literally melding with other people, and maybe like taking in their life force to remain young, to remain vital, to stay young for a long time. So that's kind of what I got out of it. But yeah, like this ending, because really, like you said, the first half, nothing too crazy, like nothing too like graphic, and then up until these final like 20-30 minutes, it just becomes honestly one of the most like grotesque body horror related things ever. Like, really, it's up there with The Thing, and that's I'm glad you brought that up, because it really has those same kind of effects. I mentioned earlier too. There's a VFX artist. She goes by the name Screaming Mad George, and she had actually worked on other John Carpenter movies. She worked on Big Trouble in Little China. Cool. She worked on Predator, Nightmare on Elm Street 3, Dream Warriors, which is to me one of the best Nightmare on Elm Street movies. So she's worked on done visual and special effects on a variety of really kind of notable 80s and 90s movies. So this movie obviously was after she had done Predator, after she had done Big Trouble in Little China. So like, this is such a good like feat of practical, like, grotesque practical effects. Like,
she's done nothing since Beyond Reanimator in 2003.
Oh, really? Okay.
What has she been working on?
Ooh, let me see. I'm looking now. Yeah, she Tales from the Hood. Yeah, so like really like 80s and 90s. She mid 80s to like the late 90s. She was doing a lot of cool stuff, a lot of cool horror movies.
From Japan.
That's Bride of the Reanimator. That's the one that Brian Yuzna directed. That's when he directed that so he can make Society.
There's 3 animator movies too.
Yeah, I've only seen the first one.
They've been working. It's in 2013. There was a sequel written called Society 2: Body Modification. So for 8 years now, they've been trying to get a sequel off the ground. I don't know if they can make this today.
Wait, for Society,
a sequel.
Yeah, because to me, I don't know if you feel the same way, but well, maybe you do, because this just feels very much like a late 80s body horror movie. Like, it's very much of its time, which again I think mostly works in its favor. Ooh,
I think
buddy
Griswold probably heard like wind.
Yeah.
I think well, that's something else I want to talk about. We talked about Martyrs being called psychological horror, also borderline torture porn. This movie is called body horror or body modification. That's newer to me as a title of a genre, and also I haven't seen a lot of. So what else falls into the body horror genre? What other movies?
Well, wait. So like you said, body horror and body modification being two separate like terms.
No, I guess one. So like on Wikipedia, Society is a 1989 American body horror film. So when you click on body horror, I guess my question is like, what else falls into that?
Yeah, I mean, there's a lot of movies. I would say The Thing. Obviously, we already talked about that.
I said Frankenstein. That's showing up on here.
I know some. What's that one? It's a Peter Jackson movie, Brain Dead, also called Dead Alive.
Oh, have you seen that?
Wild. That's one of the craziest movies ever, yo.
Wait, I'm thinking of 2. I've seen them both.
Okay.
So you're talking Peter Jackson old movies, right?
Yeah, I think this one's from like the 90s.
So there's the Bad Brain one, which is the aliens, right? That like walk around just eat. So there's, hold on, let me look it up.
Yeah, but yeah,
Bad Taste.
Bad Taste. That's like one of his first movies, and then following up with that movie was Dead Alive, also called Brain Dead.
That's the one I know. That's the one with like the zombies and the lawnmower and everything, right?
Yep.
I've seen both. Dead Alive, I know I own. That one sticks more to me than anything. Yeah. Oh, I was gonna ask you this earlier. You're more knowledgeable in the film space than I am. I was gonna ask you this earlier.
Oh, also the Fly, the 80s one with Jeff Goldblum. I'd consider that body horror. Like,
I've never seen it.
So yeah, I mean, really, I would just say like it's good, and also
I need to. I know the end, so I want to see it for that.
Oh, the ending is crazy, man. Yeah, That's the thing. There's a good amount of 80s body horror where like it's the end where there's like a huge reveal, some grotesque reveal. That's one of the best ones as far as these kind of movies go. Just because that one's horrifying. All I remember is like his head literally like splits in two, and then like a fly's head pops out, and it's horrifying. It's fucking gross.
See, from what I've seen, it seems gruesome. So let me ask you this, because you're more in the biz than I am. Peter Jackson recently directed that Beatles documentary for Hulu, maybe.
Yeah, Peter Jackson, right?
Yeah, I think it was him.
Or because there's a new one on Disney Plus. Is that the one?
There's like 6 out right now that are out. Hold on, let me look it up. The Beatles Get Back TV series documentary. He's producing that, and then I think, let me see if he's directing it. My question is separate than this, but let me ask this question for you. Let's see. Close. When you're directing an archival movie like that, I don't know, maybe I'm sure the movie has interviews with Paul and Ringo and stuff like that. But my question for you is, how do you direct an archival documentary? How do you direct it? I was watching a stop motion animated show on Hulu earlier.
Yeah.
Crossing Swords, very funny. How do you direct that? Are you just putting the pieces together and telling the editor what to do?
So in the case of just like archival stuff, or like this and like animated stuff and.
Yeah, separately. I'm curious about both.
Well,
yeah,
I mean, I would say like, yeah. So, I mean, every director on any movie, you know, I think there's different levels to like how much they're actually doing. Like, obviously, someone like a Michael Bay, like he's very much in the action. Like he'll go up with the stunt guys. He's not just behind, like way in the back in like a tent, you know, or whatever. Like just he's like with all the action. Like, all right, guys, like here's what's gonna happen. Like you know. And not every director does that. Not, you know, even action directors. But I think in the case of like when it comes to like documentaries like this, I mean, I think they're doing still a lot of the heavy work. And obviously, there's so many departments they got to work on to make sure their vision's good. Because if you think about like if we're thinking about stop motion, I mean, there's not just the animators. There's the people. There's the set designers. There's this extra VFX because they now most stop motion they still add some CGI in there, some layering. There's the music department, there's sound, there's Foley. Like there's still all these other departments that the director has to kind of individually, I guess, like monitor and work with to achieve like their vision. Because
it's producing in a way too. A lot of the organization, the calling the shots, the tasks.
Yeah,
it's all of that. Because also when you're producing, some producers just throw money at something and say, "Give me some return." Other producers are on set and working on things.
Right.
And I know a lot of directors only will direct a movie once every 4 or 5 years, because when you're directing a movie for 3 or 4 months, you're also editing. You're in the editing suite. So you'll film for 13 hours and then the cast goes home and the crew, and then you're sitting in the editing bay with the editor for the next 6 hours watching, that as well. So that's why, you see somebody, you go, why haven't they directed anything in 6 years? And you're like, well, they took 4 months where they didn't sleep or see their families. I mean, they need time. But that was a question for me. I guess stop motion makes a little more sense because you're directing the voiceover actors and the this and that. But I don't understand, like, what makes Peter Jackson directing the new Beatles thing the director. That's what I...
Yeah, well, I mean, like, again, like, he's still ultimately calling the shots for what we see on screen. So, like, anything we see, it's like, all right, that was Chancellor, that was him saying, approving or disapproving certain things. But that's a great question. I'd almost like to, like, see behind the scenes of that, too. Like, what went into that? Like, what were you doing exactly to achieve this final product? And I know Peter Jackson has made a number of documentaries now. Did you ever see, he made one like back in 2018, and it was really cool because it was he took archival footage from like World War I, and him and his team, I think at Weta, they digitally revamped and colorized old footage, and
oh cool,
it was amazing. Like he brought to life 100-year-old footage, and it looks amazing.
They shall not grow old.
They shall not grow old. Yeah, awesome.
I've been wanting to see that for a long time. I love when people are colorizing and digitalizing.
Oh,
stuff.
and all the sound. They like it's cool because they literally talk about how they did it too, and like even all the little sounds, like they were so accurate. Like, oh hey, in this one clip, this guy he bangs like an old spoon on a table. They like found the old table and like got like a replica of the spoon. Like that's how exact they were. So like,
that's cool. That's very cool.
Even the sound effects are all accurate to the exact materials that were in the shots. Like the people talking, they got actual voice actors to like with the right accents and everything. Like it was the level of detail to bring in these, like to revamping these shots or these clips were amazing.
I think I'm passionate but also lazy, where if I were Peter Jackson, I was like, find me this table, and they're like, all right, and then like a day later I was like, where is this table, and they're like, we're working on it. I'd be like, fuck it, let's just use one from Kraft. Like,
yeah, good idea.
That's fine, let's just get going. Yeah. That's cool. I want to get back into Peter Jackson because I'm looking at his thing right now. I would love to watch Meet the Feebles. I don't think I've ever seen that.
I haven't seen that either.
I've never seen The Frighteners.
The Frighteners is good. His 90s output is really good because he also made I'm forgetting the name. He has a movie with Kate Winslet in the,
which one's that?
It's like mid 90s, I think, mid or late 90s. Really cool movie.
Forgotten Silver, Heavenly Creatures, Heavenly Creatures.
Yeah, that's a good movie. I would love to rewatch that again. And then obviously, like I said, Dead Alive is one of the nastiest, craziest movies ever.
That movie's fantastic. You're like, that's the Lord of the Rings guy?
Which is wild. Yeah, because he went from, I mean, really, he has one of the most unique filmographies ever. Yeah.
I'm jealous. So, so I guess to wrap up what happens at the end of Society is there's a giant orgy where they suck dry. I'd imagine in my head they're doing it to stay youthful. Jeepers Creepers takes your eyes so you can have your eyes. Yeah. Imagine Society, these people, these rich people who at 60 and 70 look young and fit and have tight skin. I imagine this is them sucking the youth out of these people. I imagine they're doing it for a reason, right?
Yeah. I think that is quite literally the reason. And again, like, and maybe the fact that it wasn't explained maybe is somewhat of a fault of the movie, where it's like, oh yeah, they're rich, and that's what rich people do. They suck the life force out of all of us plebeian, heathens, and it's like, but in the case of the movie, it's like, all right, but is it literally because they need our bodies to stay youthful, or is it just one big metaphor?
Because they can. Is it because they can?
Which is, I guess, both equally scary.
Yeah.
But again, sorry, we're gonna say.
I was just gonna say, I'll try to keep this short. I think it reminded me a lot of They Live as well.
Definitely.
They Live is a great 80s movie about a guy who finds sunglasses that aliens left behind. And when he uses them, he can read what advertising really is. So there might be a cigarette billboard up that says, like, you could be cool if you smoke cigarettes. And then when he puts the glasses on, it says, like, consume.
It's such a cool movie.
It's such a cool movie. I think it gets a lot of flack because that one line, I'm here to chew bubblegum and kick ass, and I'm all about bubblegum. It's like a very like Arnold Schwarzenegger character mixed into an alien movie, but like, and they even tried to like slightly remake it a few years ago. It wasn't as good.
No, that's a movie you can't remake. I mean, that's another classic John Carpenter movie. Like, it's
fantastic movie, and just like he could tell which people are the aliens and which are not, and how to like kill off the fake people on our planet. So it reminded me a lot of this. Very similar in terms of like one guy getting to the bottom of the things. I mean, and I'd almost say, as far as, just because I was talking about this with a coworker, Escape from Tomorrow was that movie illegally filmed in Disney World, about like what really goes on behind the scenes at Disney World, and one guy discovering when you peel back each layer what it's like. I like those movies a lot.
Yeah,
it just makes you think completely differently. Next time I see a rich person, I'm gonna be like, what are you really doing at Christmas time?
Well, I think it's hard not to, because we see, especially nowadays, where like our social elite look basic. We don't. It's not like high society in the past where the rich wore the most extravagant clothing. Now Mark Zuckerberg wears a hoodie that I'd wear, and he drives a car that I drive. They blend in, and that's
I'm the same way. If I got rich and famous, I'd be in sweatpants and a sweatshirt, even more than I am now. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, it's almost like a bragging right. Be like, I'm this rich and I can afford to just dress like this. But if anything, it's almost like, it almost makes you question things. I'm like, are you trying to hide something? Are you trying to almost act normal to hide something? Because especially in the case of Zuckerberg, everyone makes there's memes for days about him being a robot and not being a real person. And you watch interviews with him and there's something that seems just off.
What does a normal person wear?
Yeah,
sweatshirt and jeans. Yeah.
But I guess one thing too, just to wrap it up too, like the sort of, again, the unintended similarities, because we didn't recommend these movies because, oh hey, they're kind of similar. No, we just did it.
Yeah.
But there are some similarities in that we have these elites in their ivory towers who are able to enact and do these wild tasks and get away with it. So in the case of Martyrs, they have
hypotheses.
They have this institution where they're able to torture people and women specifically in order to understand some transient, some afterlife, and then we have in this case rich elitists who are able to merge bodies and in gross ways, you know, and like
did we see the unemerging, the demerging, the non-merge? I don't know what the opposite of merging is.
I don't think so. Because that's I think they just escape. So I think Bill at the end of this movie he escapes with that his girlfriend or like his love interest in the movie that and then they escape and that's kind of the end of the movie. I don't think we ever see what really happens to this.
Does his friend escape? The guy in the cop outfit?
I think he dies. Honestly, I think he gets sucked into it all.
It was one of those things where kind of like The Walking Dead. Like in The Walking Dead, when it's just zombies, you're like, how does anybody get bitten by a zombie? Like all you have to do is just go, whoop, and you don't get bitten. Like in this movie, there were so many scenes where they were just like watching it happen and could have left, and then people would be like, "You're next," and then they would keep eating somebody for 16 more minutes, and it's like, how do you get eaten by these people? How do you not get away?
Just book it to the door, run, man. Like,
even Bill was like semi tied up, and the girl like kind of helped him set free, and then he was like, oh, okay, I'm just gonna walk out of here. But that's my question: is like when the sun rises the next day, how do people disassemble? How do they go back to their human form? Like, how do you detach from people and then just? But I think, yeah, the whole entire thing was just rich people can do whatever they want, hide evidence of anything they want. They run everything. They run the therapist. They run the police. They
create the rules. They create, you know, everything like that. Yeah, which is horrifying, you know, and it's like,
yeah.
So
I don't think it's far from the truth. Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely.
So now next time you see an article that says, how does J-Lo look so good at 50? How's J-Lo so fit at 50? How does she look so youthful? And you're like, well, it could be because she has a personal trainer, a personal chef, a personal Botox person, an in-home gym, and an in-home sauna. Or once a year, she has a wild, giant, rich orgy where she sucks the life out of poor people, middle class trash.
I can believe both.
Yeah. I wonder what the cost would be. Like, what level of money do you have to be a part of this party versus being a victim of this party?
I mean, I assume you got to be probably in like the billionaire club at this point. Like,
billionaire.
Yeah. You got to be so far removed from most people, you know.
I'd like prequels where like you see Bill's dad getting inducted into here, and like maybe he also was like, I don't want a part of this, and then
right, and then he became like a pawn. Like rich, but still a pawn, you know, like, yeah.
And then his face was sticking out of somebody's ass, and he was like, all right.
Yeah.
It was like Dumb and Dumber, the scene where he comes out of the rhinoceros.
Oh, yeah. Oh, wait, no, that was Ace Ventura, right?
Ace Ventura, yeah, the second one, right? It's like, hello!
Yeah.
It's hot in there. Yeah, I think it's funny that we pick these. I wonder if next time we do this, this theme, I wonder if we're going to wind up doing something with extremely similar.
I know, and I think we should keep it similar. We don't intend to have anything related. We just we pick a movie, pick something fucked up, obscure, weird. I'll pick something fucked up, obscure, weird, and we'll see what happens.
Because that's the thing, we came into this not knowing much about the other person's movie, so it's not like we could have picked up on this theme.
No, not at all. Yeah, that was not intended.
So Martyrs and Society. I know I found Society pretty easy to rent on my TV. I think Martyrs is pretty easy to find, right?
Yeah, I'm trying to remember. I think I did rent it. I rented it for like $2-3 or something like that. It might have been on Amazon. I'm not sure if it is available for streaming, like on Amazon Prime or like as far as like for free with subscription. But you can definitely find it easily. Just
make sure you're watching the 2008 version.
Yes, 2008. Yeah.
Check out the remake. Let me know what you think.
I think I'm gonna check it out because that one actually might be available to watch with a Prime subscription.
I could see that.
Yeah. So I might check that one out. I'm interested. I'm like that's you know, like that seems like a hard movie to remake and still keep the same energy and brutality intact. So
plus, you know that like when it's being made in America, you have producers there who are like, can we not do this scene? If we want to make it theatrical, we have to hold back on this. And they're like, okay,
fine.
Can we make Martyrs but PG-13? You're like, so cut out the whole second half. Got it.
You're like, yeah, okay. So
yeah.
Oh, that's funny.
Well, we are the Weiliotis podcast. We're going to try to make a few more coming up. I know Tom's flying back for the holidays. I'll be going up to New Hampshire for a few days for the holidays. We're going to try to get another episode or two maybe this month. And then, yeah, check us out. We recently looked into our analytics. We have, I think, what was it, 224 downloads altogether? And, 264.
Let me bring up the exact image. You sent it to me. I think we have 272 at the moment.
272. And then, let me see. Let's see where we are. I just want to talk about where we have. I want to give a shout out to our listeners across the world. Let's see. We have 272 downloads. That is very cool. We have 10% of listeners in Boston, 7% New Hampshire, where I'm from, 6% in Georgia, where you were living, 4% in Denver, where I was living, and then 91% of people in the United States, 3% in France, 1% in Mexico. We have four listeners in Indonesia, 2 in Germany, 1 in Australia, 1 in the Netherlands, and 1 in the Philippines, which I believe goes to say that Tom and I are going to be doing a tour, an international tour of our podcast.
Hell yeah. All 5 of you better show up.
Very tiny places in Germany, and Indonesia will be coming too.
But for real though, like anyone anyone who's listening, thank you. Because I know we're inconsistent. We're trying to be better, trying to be more consistent, trying to get episodes on a weekly basis. It's hard sometimes, but we're, I know 2022, I think we're going to be a lot more on top of things because for the most part, since September, I mean, we were on a good run for September, October. And then because of my move and some other things, we, had to delay for a couple of weeks, but hey, as long as you keep coming back, we'll keep coming back to it essentially. It's like, as long as I'm not dropping it for too long,
We'll post more on our social. We need to post more and talk about what we're excited for in between episodes. But follow us at the weiliotispodcast.com where you can find all the places we're streaming. Spotify, Apple, wherever, YouTube. Watch the video on YouTube if you got a couple hours, or just listen to it in the background. Play it on YouTube. YouTube gives us some better plays versus Spotify and Apple and all of those. And then share it with your friends. We're either Weiliotis Podcast or the Weiliotis Podcast on Facebook, Instagram, Twitter. If you're a sponsor and you want your products getting out to 90% of America and 4% of Germany and Indonesia, where your market.
World tour coming soon.
Oh my God, that'd be so cool. Anyway, thanks for coming on. We're going to have some guests soon. We're going to talk Home Alone. We're going to talk video game movies. We're going to talk something else at some point in the near future. I want to do a whole separate podcast on Yellow Jackets because that's how much I love that show.
I mean, really, at this point, I feel like we spend so much time talking about, recent watches or television shows. Yeah, I mean, I figure we could even have like a separate one, maybe more geared towards television, and just do like new shows. Like we could do like week by week, like individual episodes, or do full season reviews, anything like that.
I would love to do a full season. Talk about it at the end.
I know for sure we'll eventually do one for the boys. Because I know season 3 is going to come out next year. We'll definitely do a recap of probably season 1 and 2 with a guest.
Yep.
So that'll be a ton of fun because that show is awesome. So yeah, exciting stuff for sure.
Thank you all. Go see Society and Martyrs, but know that it's going to give you nightmares.
So be careful.
As brave as you think you are.
But yeah, thank you again, guys, for listening. And until next time, take care.